Salutations, everybody. Welcome to the AOE podcast number 21, where today I'm joined with my good friend Kiri to talk about Disney sequels. That direct-to-DVD slash VHS slash digital nonsense that they've been shoveling out ever since the mid-90s, because I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, there's only been 3 Disney sequels that went to theaters. Rescuers Down Under, Wreck-It Ralph 2, and Frozen 2.
Correct.
Yeah. So, all the other sequels are just shovelware, low budget, don't give a fuck, let's just make some money because kids will watch anything. Although some of them are better than the others, and we will go over our respective tier lists as it goes on. So, I had to watch most of these for the first time. You grew up on this stuff like it was water.
I did. I watched a lot of them often, even if I don't actually like them very much. You know, just put them on. They're easy, mindless. Disney, just watch it.
Yeah, I think that's the Disney Plus logo. It's Disney, just watch it. So yes, thanks to the advent of Disney Plus, I've been able to watch some of these, because the only ones I had ever seen growing up I had on VHS was Return to Jafar, King of Thieves, Belle's Enchanted Christmas, and The Lion King 1.5 on DVD whenever that came out. And I think I can say I avoided a lot of bullets. It took us 8 months to watch all these together.
Listen. It was a long process. You need breaks in between.
Yes.
You can't do all of them in a row. Like, not even I did as a kid. I didn't go from Disney sequel to Disney sequel. It was very much.
Yeah, there's like 25
I feel like
of
this
them.
one specifically.
Yeah. Ridiculous.
The fact that I forgot that I'd even seen the only one that I was like, I don't think I have, and then we started it, and I was like, wait, no, I did. Oh, right. Oh no.
So Kiri compiled my tier list, and she also compiled her own.
Excuse you.
And you know what mine are because you made it. I don't know what your tier list is at this juncture.
Yeah, you're gonna find out as we go.
Yeah.
I will tell you, I will give you the hint. Our actually goods and our shit tiers are both pretty much the same.
Yes. So the tier list is as follows: shit, low average, middle average, high average, and actually good. As you can see, there's no great tier and even better tier. They're just kind of like crap, acceptable, and like, that was okay. It was worth watching. And it's very heavy at the bottom, I would say.
Very, very bottom heavy.
Yes. And unbeknownst to me, I don't know if you knew this when you were young growing up, but most of these are just episodes of TV shows that never got off the ground, and they just threw them together to make a quote-unquote movie.
I figured it out because some of the main ones that I would watch were the episodic ones. And you kind of watch like a couple of them and you're like, I see, I'm connecting the dots. I have connected them.
Right.
They are TV episodes.
Yes. So, which of the Cinderellas was that?
Cinderella 2.
Cinderella 2. Atlantis.
Atlantis 2, Tarzan and Jane, and Belle's Magical World.
Yes, Belle's Magical World. Yes. Because, like, a lot of the Disney shows did end up getting, a lot of Disney movies ended up getting TV shows and comic books and stuff. I remember the Aladdin TV show. I didn't
Little Mermaid as well.
Yeah, I didn't.
Tarzan actually did have one, because that's what some of those episodes were from.
Right.
Lion King, obviously, with Timon and Pumbaa.
Yeah, Lilo and Stitch.
Lilo and Stitch, yes.
Yeah. I didn't, even though I'm a huge Lilo and Stitch fan, I did not watch that show when it was on. I have seen a few episodes of Emperor's New School, and I think it's pretty good.
Emperor's New School is pretty good.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah. And then I guess was Kronk's New Groove supposed to be a TV show? It was, right?
It was.
Yeah.
It was.
Yeah. So I guess we'll just start from the very, very bottom. And when we're talking about Disney's very, very bottom, there's only one place to go, and that's the jungle, where Rudyard Kipling's book that I've never read has been transformed into 2 shitty movies, and then a live-action one with Jon Favreau that's it's pretty good. It's all right. Definitely better than the original, but oh my god, Jungle Book 2. That is... it's... I wanted to make it its own tier. Like, I wanted to like bury it even further because of how shitty this was.
Yeah, this one's your absolute bottom. It is my second bottom one.
Interesting. I have an
terrible.
idea of
I
what
watched
the bottom
this one frequently as a kid. I did watch Jungle 2 a lot as a kid. Not because I liked it. Like, I think reflecting on it in between us finishing them all and getting to like start talking about it now, I feel like I watched a lot of the ones I really didn't like a lot as a weird fascination of this is so terrible, but I can't describe and put into words and articulate how terrible this is.
It's one of the ones that I didn't know existed before we started doing this.
Yeah, you had no clue.
Yeah. I was aware there was a Pocahontas 2 where she like marries some other guy. I was aware of The Little Mermaid 2. I was aware of a Lion King 2 because I'd seen part of it somewhere. And I didn't know there was Brother Bear 2. Didn't know there was Peter Pan 2. Didn't know there was a Tarzan 2. I knew there was a Mulan 2, but I didn't know anything about it. And I was aware there was a Fox and the Hound 2 as well. But like Scamp's Little Adventure, didn't know about that. I didn't know that that Lilo and Stitch had 2 of them. I thought I'd heard Leroy and Stitch, and I just assumed that was Lilo and Stitch 2, but they're completely different.
Yep.
But Jungle Book 2, so a lot of them are TV show they're typically 3 episodes, right? That they just get thrown together.
Yes, they were meant to be the pilot 3 episodes,
right.
And then it wasn't greenlit, and they were like, okay, but we got to make some money off of it, so we'll make like an interconnecting plot to tie the 3 together. So it's either like, oh, we're gonna retell 3 adventures, blah blah blah, or it goes in a sequential. Here's a plot, and we just happen to go into these 3 episodic sections to go around the plot.
Right, because for those of you who don't know, most animations like they order a pilot. If it's like a live action thing, or if it's animation, it is typically 3 episodes. Like they order a few to get a taste of what this idea looks like, and then the studio decides whether they're going to greenlight the show or not. And especially since animation is so expensive, it makes sense why they would just like package it together, sell it for $12, see what we can do.
Yep.
But I would say the other 2 categories is retelling the same story or the same story in reverse. And the other way is it's usually
what happens after happily ever
after. What happens after. I was going to say usually ruining the original, but yes. Yes. It's usually a continuation, a complete retelling, or just episodes that they threw together. Or in 100 Dalmatians 2's case, going to the future and ripping off Bolt.
Yeah. Well, the Jungle Book 2 did have its own continuation, so quote unquote original.
I would say Jungle Book 2 is just the same movie but in reverse.
It is in reverse.
Because in the first movie, he starts in the jungle, wants to stay in the jungle, goes to the city. In Jungle Book 2, he's in the city and wants to go to the jungle, and then goes to the jungle, and then goes back to the city. It's just the same exact fucking story. He just starts in a different spot. And so, like, that's annoying. And one of the things that got to me was Baloo is like, oh man, I lost my friend. You knew that fucker for less than a day. Like, he didn't know Mowgli until Jungle Book 1 happened, and he knew him for an afternoon and a morning. And now he's like, man, my best pal's gone. It's like, shut up. You knew him for a day, dude.
And Jungle Book 1 also proves that it's not safe for Mowgli to grow up in the jungle.
Exactly.
Like, that's the point. It's not safe there. And Baloo brings him back in the second one. Like, he kidnaps Mowgli.
Mm-hmm.
You know, well, Mowgli goes along willingly, but for the villagers, for everyone else, for all the bystanders, it's a kidnapping. It's effectively a kidnapping.
Yeah.
And then it goes on to prove in the second one as well. Hey, so it's not safe for Mowgli to grow up in the jungle. Like, yeah, we learnt that the first
Exactly.
time.
It's just the same movie over again, except less racism and no recycling the same scenes 6 times.
Him.
And there's more than one human this time.
Yes, you add in Raj and Shanti.
Right. And Shere Khan's back, and he gets baited by the Beatles vultures into like, hey, a human kicked your ass. And he's like, well, I'm going to fucking kill a human, I'll show him. And so it's also the same villain. So it's just like, it's just the same bad movie over again. And that's just the worst defender. And it was also bad. So you're taking something that's bad and you're just retelling it in a just as bad way. And so that's how it gets on the bottom of the shit list for me.
Oh, well deserved.
Yes. So I'm assuming your bottom is Belle's Magical World.
Yes, your second worst is my actual worst. Yes.
Yes. I would, if those of you have watched our princess tier list episode, I would have to assume that why you hate this so much is because Belle is your favorite princess and it was so bad, so therefore it was an extra crime.
Yeah, that's definitely part of it.
It's also really bad because it's my second worst.
Yeah, no, this one is the one that I thought I had not watched, and then we started watching it, and I was having flashbacks to having watched it as a kid. And you're like, you know what? The one viewing is enough. Thanks, Chief. I'm out. It is terrible. It is absolutely a episodic, but we got to stitch it together because we weren't greenlit. And it's trying to be a midquel. There's a couple of them that are midquels. They're supposed to take part during the main story, just in a chunk of time that was glossed over, and it's like, that's fair enough. At least it doesn't conflict,
and at the very least there is some time that Belle was there that we just don't see. It's not like Fox and the Hound 2 where they create a midquel out of nowhere. It's like, that couldn't have happened. That's impossible.
It is impossible for Fox and the Hound 2 to exist, but we'll get there. Don't you worry. Yes. We shall get there. But yes, Belle's they ruined a princess, probably the best one, in my opinion, because I do love Belle.
Yes.
And they had nowhere to go with it because they didn't have anything inventive to do with it. They tried to cram the moral into each one of them, but it's just not the franchise to do it with.
Yes, and it was...
like, you have that whole time to explore the mechanics of an enchanted castle with enchanted people who were turned into objects. And what you do with it is be like, well, we have to have a story about the beast, like, apologizing.
Right.
And about a dictionary and whatever. What was the other one? Like, because the bird one was the apology one.
Right.
And then you've got the candelabra, Lumiere making his girlfriend jealous, the feather duster jealous.
Yes.
And her being like, I'm going to murder Belle because I'm so jealous. Like, what is...
Yeah, and then there was the Christmas tree one. No, that was the Enchanted.
That's Enchanted Christmas. That's a different
one. So yeah, the quill and the dictionary, and it's so forgettable. It's also the worst offender of, like, this is obviously 3 episodes. Like, they couldn't hide it at all.
That is actually the reason that I put it lower than Jungle Book 2.
Yeah.
That is what was the actual tip. Like, they were sitting equal and I couldn't quite figure out which one to put there, and then thought about it and was like, that is the most obvious horrific formatting.
Yes. And,
So
and it's also
at least Jungle Book 2 was a consistent.
Yes,
plot.
and it's also I think
sucked,
the most difficult. Like I understand, but I'm not going to give them any credit. It is the most difficult 1-2 midquel because
yes,
I mean you're not going to have a story about Belle and Adam being happy in France or whatever. Like we get that. You have to go midquel because like even in Kingdom Hearts, it's like he's got to be a beast. Otherwise, like we're not getting anything out of here. But you can't have a TV show where there's growing and development. It's like, but the beast in the movie that happens. You can't have him like learn lessons and become a better person throughout the entirety of a freaking TV show while the movie's still happening, you know, throughout this whole timeline. So it makes him just look like like an even worse version than what you see in the first film. They completely ruin his character in this movie.
Everyone who's in it is ruined. Even the new characters.
Yes, that is fair.
Who didn't exist, they were also ruined.
Yeah. It's
Enchanted Christmas did it better. Belle's Magical World
yes.
sucks.
Yes, very much. They are not on the same tier, and one of the few that have multiple entries. You got Belle, Cinderella, Lion King,
Little Mermaid,
Aladdin, Little Mermaid, Stitch, Tarzan. Yeah. So actually, quite a few have multiple entries.
Quite a few of them. Most of them, I think.
Yeah. And so yeah, Belle's Magical World.
Rescuers as well.
Yeah. Rescuers has 2 sequels?
No. You're good.
Okay.
I was thinking like ones that have 2 movies like in their thing. I was like, yeah, Rescuers.
Oh, yes. I was like, we'll talk about the Rescuers, but it doesn't count. It doesn't count because it did come out on theaters. No. It was the first Disney sequel to ever happen, and then there wasn't one for 25 years till Wreck-It Ralph Breaks the Internet came out. And then Frozen 2 the year after, which were both good films. And Rescuers obviously is not bad either. So they haven't made a dud in the sequel factory for Disney originals. We're not going to talk about Cars 2. I haven't even seen it.
Later.
Yeah. So my next worst is Cinderella 2, which was the TV show one.
Mm-hmm.
I
don't match that.
Yeah, I
can tell you that. Yeah.
I understand, like, this one and the next one, easily interchangeable. This one just felt so boring and, like, who am I supposed to root for? Who am I supposed to be attached to? Where am I invested? Like, it's not Charming. What's his name? What's the prince's name?
It is Charming.
It is Charming?
He is called Prince Charming.
Okay. What's Snow White's guy? What's his name?
Also Prince Charming.
Oh.
Technically, I believe his first name is Florian.
Of course it is. Okay. So that's why I was like, wait a minute, which one's Charming? Okay. So
no, they're both charming.
Yes. So at least in Cinderella 2 and 3, like, we get Charming some lines. I think in one of them, he only gets a couple lines in the first minute, and then you never see him again because he like goes on business or something.
2.
Yeah,
that is 2, and it's the first story.
Yeah,
that he's there, and then they're like, "Well, we got to have her having the fish out of water, being left to run things, but
sure,
or is in charge, but doesn't know how to do it. So we got to get rid of the prince." Out he goes.
Yes.
We'll see you later, Princey.
Yes, and this was the one that had the party planner lady.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, actually, she's in Free as well for like a small little cameo.
Yes, that's true.
This is like her main Prudence. This is her main appearance.
Yeah. So like, there's like the conflict between like, I'm the princess, and was like, well, I've been planning parties since you were just 2, and you won't ruin anything. So it's like she's supposed to be the villain, but it's like. I don't know. It's like it's super low stakes, and like I can't give a shit. It's like, even as a kid, like, sure, I watched Cinderella a few like, we had all of them on VHS. It's like, this was the 90s. You just watched what you had because there were no other options. There's no streaming service. There's no reruns on TV. It's like that shit. It didn't. It's like, once the Disney Channel like showed a movie, it was like an event. It's like, oh my god, this new group is gonna be on at 8:00 tonight. It was like a thing. But But yeah, Cinderella 2, I couldn't get behind. It was just so boring.
Okay, I put it in low average purely for the second story because that was about Anastasia
Mm-hmm.
getting some character
It's the
development.
most
Or was it the
memorable.
first story? No, it is the second story. It is the second story.
Mm-hmm.
The third story is about Jacques being like, well, what if I was turned into a human and
Oh
hilariously,
God, that's
quote
the
unquote,
worst
in space?
one.
That is the
I
worst one out of it.
hate
But I
that.
put it there for the second one. I know. It was really bad.
Right.
It's really
Yeah,
bad.
Jock turned into a human and then realized because he wanted to help Cinderella, and he figured it's like, oh, if
Yes.
I'm a human, I could help her more. And
Which is very sweet intentioned.
right, but also like I mean, bro, there's simping, and then there's changing your physical form.
Okay, to be fair, all he asked for was, I want to be big, and Fairy Godmother was like, I will change your species. She did that of her own volition.
Right.
He just said, I want to be big.
She has to go down as one of the most historically like dumbest Disney characters, the fucking Fairy Godmother.
Mm-hmm.
She's an idiot. I can't stand her in any three of the films, to be honest. And
But no, the second one tried to give Anastasia, like, they gave her own story and tried to make her a little bit more independent and go a little bit into more about her dynamic in between her and Drizella and Lady Tremaine.
Yes.
And that was the thing that I would watch this one for a lot as a kid. So that's why I actually put it into low average, but it's like right near the bottom. It's very close to the bottom. It's not like I'm never going to tell you that this movie is good. It's just like, cool.
Yeah.
I'm going to watch the second bit and maybe skip everything else. Just watch the second episode out of it.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing else matters. Because they said that Cinderella 2 is not canon.
Right, yes.
Then they brought back certain elements for Cinderella 3, like Prudence making her appearance, and the baker makes an appearance at the end.
Yes.
So they took little bits they took the good bits, or the bits that they could work with, out of Cinderella 2, and put it later into Cinderella 3. So like Anastasia's development happens again, and they, that's the canon version in 3, but they tried here in 2, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, that's definitely the one that people talk about. You'd be like, oh, so wait, it's all about Anastasia? I was like, well, I thought it's Cinderella too. And then you watch the first part and it's like, it's the fucking mouse. Like, I like, he ruins my life in Dream Drop Distance already. So next up, I have the Atlantis movie, whatever the hell it's called. Milo's Return.
I agree. I had mine in the same place. Basically, where you
I feel like this one was the lowest quality of animation out of all of them.
Yes, because it was trying to do the stylization of the original Atlantis on a £10 and a packet of crisps budget.
Yes. It like watching it was like, this looks just as bad, if not worse, than the actual Aladdin TV show. As far as the quality of animation. And it was definitely the most formulaic. Like, you could tell, oh, so some ancient magic thing's gonna happen and they're gonna have to put it in a Pokeball and trap it and stop it from blowing up the world or whatever. And that's just gonna be every fucking episode, which is so boring. Even as a kid, once you've seen one or two shows that are just super fucking formulaic where they do this thing, it's like, all right, so Jimmy Neutron, he's going to invent something in the first half a second of the episode, and then he's going to invent a second thing that'll go haywire. He's going to go brain blast and realize that his first invention can fix the second invention from blowing up the town. It's like that kind of monotony is just so graining on me, and Atlantis is exactly the same. Like they travel, some magic's happening, and they stop it, and it's really boring and it's really bad, and also like we didn't need this.
No, and there's like, because I had this one on DVD and I could see the deleted scenes. They wanted to do really like interesting stuff, like actually interesting stuff with the show, and they just clearly didn't get the budget to be able to do it. Like the ending of the first one with the Kraken, her baby, the creepy lady walking around talking about her little one. The baby was supposed to be the Kraken,
right?
Like a new one. Like they tried to put in like little interesting bits, and it all had to be cut and changed, and it's Such a shame, honestly, because that one would have had the potential. Interesting.
It was definitely
really
the
cool.
most egregious of fucking. Let's just squeeze some money out of that shit.
Yeah.
And they didn't, because like spoiler alert, the movie Atlantis didn't do well. So like I don't even know why they even tried with the TV show. That was so unsuccessful they made it into a sequel that was one of the least successful ones, I'm sure. It's number 4 on my shit list, but as well as yours. So clearly they just commercially failed 3 times in a row, and they just cut your losses. Cut your losses, Disney.
Oh, such a waste of Kita and Milo.
Yeah. It didn't have any of the charm of the actual film. Of really most of the characters, I would say, who's the big guy with the
Dr. Sweet?
Yeah, Dr. Sweet. He's like the only character in the show is like, all right, yeah, that's still Dr. Sweet. Yeah, he's still cool.
And Cookie too, I'd argue.
Yes, and Cookie. The cook. Yeah. But
they're so minor that you barely get to see.
Yeah, exactly. And to me, Milo's return, Atlantis 2 Milo's return, is that conversation that Sweet has with Milo in the film. It's like, you don't want to know. You shouldn't have told me. And now that I'm telling you, you don't want to know. So nobody watch this. It's bad. And next up, I have probably one of the more well-known and beloved ones, The Little Mermaid 2, Return to the Sea, with Melody, which is just the first movie again, but backwards. It's the daughter in the land wanting to go in the sea, as opposed to Ariel in the sea wanting to go into land.
I was much kinder to it.
I thought so.
I watched it a lot as a kid.
I thought so.
This is a nostalgia one. I'm not even gonna pretend about this.
The animation's not bad.
Nostalgia one. Yeah, because they had a bit of a budget.
Mm-hmm. This is one of the ones that had like a legit original song to it. Mm-hmm. But it's just the story to me was it's just the same movie backwards. And it's like, oh, okay, so, they didn't, like, bring Ursula back from the dead. It's like, oh, it's her sister, and she's, like, the fucking same. So it's just the first movie over again. So if I want to watch The Little Mermaid, I'll watch The Little Mermaid, because this isn't it, Chief.
When I was little and first, like, going to watch it, the concept of the first movie but opposite, this was one of the first ones. Mm-hmm. So back then, it wasn't, like, a common, like, oh my god, this is just another reversal. Like back then, this was the reversal that you had.
Yeah, and the first.
Bam, okay, Little Mermaid 2. Yeah. Let's go.
Yeah, and the first canon Disney princess to get porked, right?
Yep.
Yeah,
or at least produce a child from the implied porking.
Yes. That scene is not in the show or in the movie.
No.
Might have been more interesting.
They only have one. You only get one evidence of reproduction.
Yes.
Just the one.
Yes. The
assume it was a miracle boy conception. Just one.
The Disney sequels are inherently more horny than the originals.
It's so upsetting how bad they are with that. Like that completely obviously went over my head as a kid watching all of them, but like rewatching with you, it was like, wow. Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Send these animators some help. What is happening?
Yeah. So and it's usually just like the side characters, or it's like, oh, so now that the main character had their story, it's like, where's my love interest? It's like no one fucking cares. So yeah, it's them like it's the writers trying like, oh, let's tie up loose ends instead. It's like, oh, I wonder what happened to this character. Oh, they got married. Oh, they got married. This one, oh, they're trying to get married. And it's like, okay, so like no one does anything cool. They're all just fucking other hetero people. Fun. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I have questions about what Sebastian was doing during this whole time. With Melody, because like clearly she knows him and he was told to keep her away from the sea. He does the worst job ever, I would say.
I mean, considering how bad a job he did with Ariel, I don't know what anybody was ever really expecting of him. I feel like we all knew his qualifications before we assigned him to the
True,
job.
and he's
He was
also
doing
probably
well.
like 200 in crab years at this point.
Yeah, he literally says, "I'm too old for this." Like, listen,
Yes.
he just wants to retire.
Yes.
Let the poor crab have his retirement. Jeez.
Yeah, so I was not a fan, nor was I of the next one, Ariel's Beginning, which is a
Little Mermaid
prequel to the first film, where King Triton is still an asshole. His wife dies, and since she liked music, he's like, banish all music because it makes me sad, because it makes me think of dead wife. And Ariel's like, but music, it's great. And I hate doing all this weird, like boarding school shit with my sisters every day, and I never get to see Dad. And Sebastian's running an underground jazz parlor that she discovers.
Yeah.
And
which I love.
Yeah, and in effect, reveals to Triton, and he blows it up, and it's a story. There's no way in any of these movies to make King Triton look good. He's just might be the worst good guy ruler out of all of the Disney films. He's so like emotionally unhinged. He has a hell of a temper, and the only times he ever does anything good in any of the movies is because his favorite daughter gets him to come around on something. And so...
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. I was much kinder. I actually put it in low average. But I didn't watch this one. I watched this one when it came out, and this one came out quite, like, late.
Yes.
But it had a budget, so it looks pretty good.
Yeah.
I actually really adored the Underground Club. And I watched a lot of the Little Mermaid TV show, and this one leads into it quite well.
Interesting.
So, from what I recall anyway. So I like this one purely because it's like, okay, yeah, that would lead into that. That's fine. I'm good.
Right. So, yeah, it was kind of like, it wasn't a bad story. It's like you're doing a prequel. You have to set up some sort of conflict. I guess this one's good enough, but at the same time, it was just a very meh effort to me. But like, I get it. I guess I understand the appeal. The target audience probably loved it at that age, at that time. It's just when you grew up and have seen other films, you're like, this one's not good. Speaking of not good, we're going to keep on the not good train and talk about Hunchback of Notre Dame 2, which, as far as the categories go, this one's an actual sequel, which I feel like is the only way you could go. Even though they didn't really go anywhere with it. So the plot for this one, if you can call it a plot, and
I was gonna say, if you can call it a plot,
it's one of the more far-fetched ones. It's like that. I was like, all right, it's not going to be easy to come up with a plot to Hunchback of Notre Dame 2 to use Quasimodo and Esmeralda and Phoebus and everybody. But come the fuck on. So a traveling circus comes around, and they're a bunch of thieves using the circus as a bit of a cover, even though they do circus shit. It's just their way to get from place to place. So they do some small crimes, but they are targeting a jewel-encrusted bell that is used in Notre Dame, supposedly, which you never see in the first film and doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Why would you spend so much money on a bell, a thing no one ever is going to see? Quasimodo, the bell ringer, is the only human that is ever going to see this really pretty bell. It's like it doesn't make any sense. Like, they would have this super jewel encrusted bell, and it wouldn't work very well as a bell as far as like making an audio tone. And it's like, you have 100 other bells. What's the purpose of this one? It's really fucking dumb. So one of the circus the main evil dude is like, hey, you.
Savrush.
Yeah, sure. They make no impression. He's like, yo, lady.
Listen, this is what I'm here for. I know the details.
Yes. So he's like, here, lady, go fucking Madeline. You're a girl. Seduce the bell ringer and find out where the bell is. I don't know how the fuck they think they're gonna get a 4-ton bell out of a 400-foot tower, but the movie doesn't think you're ever gonna think an easy question like that. And so she's like, all right, I'll find out where it is. And, you know, it's one of those fake dating, but they actually like each other things with, and then the reveal is like, oh, how could you? You didn't ever liked me. No, I actually did. And then happily ever after, whatever the fuck.
Don't forget that Phoebus is also correct in his very like judgmental, arrogant assumptions.
Yes.
He ends up being correct, and everybody gives him shit with the judgmental.
He's like, I don't trust this lady, and Esmeralda's like, you don't know what you're talking about. She seems nice, and it's like, hey, he was right, but nobody ever gives him credit. which is pretty on point for Phoebus, I feel.
Yeah. But no, the entire film is just so we understand that you felt really like bad for Quasi not getting the girl. So we're gonna make him a girl that he can have instead. And also we're gonna like Esmeralda and Phoebus also get the one reproductive evidence of boinking in Zephyr, voiced by Haley Joel Osment.
Yes.
So you get to watch Quasi being good with kids, so she can be like, oh, he's good with kids. It's like he would be anyway, but you don't need that in there to force it. But no, I was slightly kinded because I do like Quasi and Zephyr's relationship. It's cute. But you know, it's still in the shit tier. I just put it like a couple, like a little bit higher, just a touch higher.
Right.
Than
the story, like the overall plot, really hurts of this traveling circus trying to find like how they're gonna get how they find out about it. B, why the fuck was it made? Because there's no reason. C, how the hell are they gonna get it out of there? There's like.
I mean, you watch them do it, and it's just
it's just like magic.
Floor in the stage brick, but you know, in a building that they've never.
Yeah, they use actual. I forgot they use actual magic in that show, and they gloss over it. And it's like you watch, it's like, all right, yeah. Like, wait a minute, they're using real magic, and it's never, ever touched on in the entire film.
No, but they also acknowledge right at the end that the gargoyles have to be real? Question mark for Madeline to also see and interact with them, and also that Jolly is meant to be a boy in the first one, and in the goat, the kid, one, and still has his little thing with
Jason Alexander,
Hugo, and then they were like, actually Jolly's a girl, and it's like, Disney, you guys are cowards.
Yeah.
You guys are cowards. You're retconning it because you're scared that you forgot that.
Right, but also, because I rewatched Hunchback of Notre Dame 1 because it's been a while. And,
yes, we did.
That has the gayest character in the history of film in it. And no one's ever mentioned this to anybody before, I feel like. The tall gargoyle. What's his name? Victor. That is the gayest character I have ever seen in a film. That is not like I'm gay. Like has like a t-shirt on that says I'm gay. He does everything but that. And it's like, why is nobody talking about this? This dude is awesome. He is cool and clearly in a relationship with Hugo. And no one ever talks. There's just like, LeFou is gay. And it's like people. If you think it's like, oh well, this Disney character is gay, it's like you'd never watched Hunchback of Notre Dame, did you? Because Victor is the gayest character I've ever seen.
Hugo is into Jolly, and if Victor's into Hugo, then it's very one-way unrequited. Because Hugo was drawing pictures of Jolly, and then they kiss.
Yes.
In the second one.
Yes.
At the festival, we're supposed to declare love for each other and smooch underneath the thing, while Quasimodo brings La Fidèle, the jeweled bell, because it's like, it means the big one or the beautiful one. It's like stupid. It's like, okay, all right, okay, whatever. But no, Hunchback of Notre Dame 2, we gave Quasimodo a girlfriend.
Yeah.
Shut up.
But there's so much wrong with it. I forgot about the fucking, there's real magic and no one talks about it. Pocahontas 2, Journey to the New World. What's it called?
Yes.
Yeah, Journey to the New World.
Yes. That's it.
Yeah. So like I remember hearing about this. It's like, oh yeah. So like John Smith dies and she like marries another guy. I was like, oh, okay. So then I watch it and yes, but also John Smith's alive, that you find out.
Yeah.
But he's like, oh, I want to do adventure. And she's like, oh, yeah, but I actually have talked to this dude. Because, like, what's her eventual husband's name?
John Rolfe.
John Rolfe, yes. So, like, their actual relationship is based on something that happens off screen. The fucking boat ride from America to England that we don't get to see. Because other than that, it's just like 2 days. And it's like...
I mean, not counting the boat ride from, like, America back to England in the first place. Where they, like, you know, get to have their little...
No, that's what I'm talking about. It's like, that clearly is the basis of their, like, relationship with one another. And the next couple of days are, like, just, like, the frosting to, like, it's like, oh, yo, we like each other. So it's like, I feel like all of the buildup was missed, and we're just supposed to assume, oh, it just all happens in these 2 days in England, where she takes like the place of the chieftain to be like the natives' representative and say like, hey, stop it, because we're not savages. Because look, I'm in all this makeup and shit.
Hey, y'all, can you like not colonize for like a hot second?
Yes.
I'm gonna need you to not.
and
please and thank you. Please enjoy my like powdered face, which looks.
And then England was like
horrific.
And I took that personally, and we colonized more. So great job. It's like it's one of those movies. It's like, oh man, everyone was happy after that. Yeah, sure, kid. Like.
Yeah,
they left everyone alone
to America with her and being like, let's go home, like they're gonna date, and it's like
Sure you are.
And listen, I put this one at the top of the shit too, because I watched this one a lot as a kid. So again, I have like the nostalgia being like, I like this one. It's not good, but I'm still gonna watch it. I still enjoy my time watching it, and that's all I'm asking of it. It's just to have a good time.
The story is interesting. It doesn't have huge things that I have big grievances with. I think this is like...
It's pretty unoffensive.
Yeah, yes. There's no like, what the fuck, they're glossing over this, or oh my gosh, they're doing this dumb thing. It just felt like uber unnecessary. And it's like, so we're gonna be like, oh, so she goes back to England and she marries John Rolfe just like in real life. It's like, yeah, she was also like fucking 12 in real life and fucking died when she was like 17 or whatever of a disease, I think. So it's like, let's not
John
bring
Smith
that
when
up.
She was 12.
Yeah.
She met John Rolfe when she was about 14 and was married off to him.
Yeah.
She did go back and forth a little bit, but then when she went to England, she was renamed Rebecca.
Yes.
And then they were traveling back. Like she popped out a couple of kids. They were traveling back, and then she died like on the way back. So she never got to see her homeland again. But the Disney movie ends with them going back to her homeland with both of them together, and they're not married yet, but they're definitely together. And they're like, they're gonna go off and live in America happily together in our version. You're like, okay, all right, Disney, nice of you to dream.
Yeah, it's just like we didn't need this. It's like the first one has its issues, but this one's got like more of those.
I did appreciate though that they like acknowledge, like they don't just gloss over the fact that they no longer want the same thing in between John Smith and Pocahontas. I do like that. I like that, and that they have the conversation where they're like, oh, okay, you know, time's passed. Not quite as into this as I was. Yeah.
It's when you come back the next summer at camp and your summer flame is like you're both at different points. Just like, oh yeah, we don't really, we shouldn't do this anymore.
Oh dear.
Not that I have any experience with that. I'm just going off the things that other people say in like comedy skits or whatever. I never went to a summer camp and no girls ever liked me. It's Tarzan and Jane. Tarzan
I had this one
NG.
much lower. I had this one right in front of, like, right after Atlantis too.
I feel like this
You were
one,
kinda.
right. I feel like this one works as a TV show more than any of the others did.
Yeah, because this one was part of a successful quote unquote TV show.
Yes,
And that was what we learned as we were watching this one. Where I was like, wait, actually, it aired, it did have episodes. These are just episodes that were taken out of it.
right, to jumpstart it.
More that it was cancelled. And these were the ones that hadn't been aired yet.
Right. Okay. So
but retroactively, they're also meant to jumpstart it because we can market it better.
That's true.
Like,
yes,
here's a
Disney's
movie.
good at doing that, pivoting. But yeah. So it was 3 episodes. There was like Jane's friends visit, and they're like, "Oh, how do you do this? It's the jungle. It's messy." And then the jaguars attack or whatever. And then the last one's about the pilot that she grew up with. That's a traitor to England, and I forget the middle one.
The middle one is about going into the mine for diamonds.
Right. Because for no fucking reason. So like these diamond people are like,
because they expected that he would betray, like that Tarzan was going to betray them, and they were like, quick, double cross him first.
Yeah. So these guys come and it's like, we're looking for diamonds, and it's like, nobody knows these jungle except for Tarzan. And they're like, Tarzan, we want you to be a guy. We're here to look for diamonds. Diamonds? What are these things? Oh, it's this thing that you give a woman to tell them you love them. And he's like, oh, sweet. That sounds like a great idea. I just want 1 diamond. And I'm like, yeah, that sounds good. And then they get to the diamond cave, which I don't know how they knew about, or like okay. So, all right. For story purposes, it exists. That's fine. And then they betray him, even though like the dude
he literally just says, I want 1 of these. I don't care about
I think he didn't know that existed the day before.
He did not. Well, just like the outpost that they go to find this information for in the first place with that sleazy like French guy who's into Jane, clearly.
Yes, of course, because he's French.
Also doesn't exist in the other ones. Yes. Well, no, not because he's French, but they just happen
he's a French character in a cartoon, so yes.
Frenchman.
Yes, that's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. But yeah, like the overarching plot that they attached to this is that like Tarzan and Jane's anniversary, like the 1-year wedding anniversary is coming up, and Jane's trying to think of something nice to do for Tarzan, and then she starts being like, well, what about this, what about this, what about this? And Turk and
Elephant
Tantor are
Tantor,
both
yeah.
in Tantor. Turk and Tantor are like, no, you can't do that because of this, you can't do, like, they're like, oh, well, you can't have a party because your friends came over last time and that was a disaster. Oh, you can't like get him a piece of jewelry because he tried to get you a diamond. And
their narrative to being like, oh, this is a movie. These stories all connect. We swear.
Yes, and what about like dancing? And then well, the last time Tarzan tried to dance and a rival turned up, and
because Cinderella 2 was like a book of stories that she's reading, right? So like that was their narrative device.
They want to give her. Yeah, the mice want to make something nice for her, and they're like, oh, but what about stories about all of us?
Yeah.
And they put it together, and Fairy Godmother is like helping them.
Yeah.
And being the middle.
So like this one is it's another, it's like it's obvious that it's a TV show, and they try and then compared to Cinderella 2 and Belle's Magical World, it's the best like, no, this is one thing, even though they're all pretty bad and obvious. Like, this is the best of those 3 really bad ones of like, this is one story, we swear. I just feel like as contents of 3 episodes, they're not bad, I feel like, for a TV show. So like that's why it's not as lower for me.
I didn't like this one as a kid, and I don't really care for it right now. It's just that a lot of the plot of the episodes of the actual TV show and these ones are also like, you don't really need to exist. You're not adding anything either.
Right.
It's not particularly offensive either, to be fair. Like it's not offensive in any way. It's just like, I wouldn't need to watch this again after I've seen it now.
True.
Whereas as a kid, it was like, well, that was one of the earlier ones I got, so it was like, well, this is what I have, so this is what I shall be watching.
Mm-hmm.
Much like how, like for example, I was scared shitless of like Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island, right? But I had that on VHS,
I
and that was
got
one of
that
the
the
was one of the
day it
VHSs
came
that we
out.
had.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was like that's what we had. So even though that part scared me shitless, I was gonna rewatch it. Yeah, it's like that with Tarzan and Jane. But we had the 2-pack, and it was like you had Tarzan and we had Tarzan and Jane together. So I watched Tarzan and then I watched Tarzan and Jane, but I wouldn't go to watch Tarzan and Jane by itself. I had to follow Tarzan if I was going to watch
Yes.
it.
Like it's still bad because it's like it's like it takes place after, but it's also like it doesn't need to exist. It doesn't add anything to the original. It doesn't give us anything, but it's very inoffensive. It doesn't take any like really weird leaps and bounds and do crazy shit.
Mm-hmm.
And it feels like
it's an easy watch.
Yeah, yes, it is. Yeah, it's an easy watch. So next up for me was 101 Dalmatians 2.
You put this one higher than I did. I put this one not just in front of Tarzan and Jane because I put Fox and the Hound 2 in the middle, but like before that. So in between Fox and the Hound 2 and Hunchback, that's where I put Dalmatians 2.
Right.
I don't like this one.
I don't like it either. But at the very least, it's a story. It's a sequel. It takes place afterwards. And it doesn't do the first movie over again.
No.
It tells a different story. It adds new characters. But it's also not good.
Oh my god. Like they have to do the whole jealous sidekick who thinks that they were going to be upstaged and replaced. So they've decided to go evil. They do bring back Cruella and Jasper and Horace. And to be honest, I think that Cruella and what's his face, the painter, the horny dynamic in between them, that's what saves
yeah I tried to block out my mind, but yeah, that's definitely a thing that happens.
It's so blatant.
But it's like as far as just like you get Thunderbolt, with the Canine Crunchies commercials that was made famous. I felt that character could have been done so much worse. It's like he could have been like such a bad guy, but he wasn't, and like that was kind of refreshing to me because every character you see in that kind of role is just like a complete asshole and is like a villain and so full of themselves, and Thunderbolt wasn't that way.
That's fair. That's valid. Yeah.
But then, of course, who was the voice of his little sidekick? It was some famous actor.
It's the same one as Hugo, Jason Alexander.
I thought it might be. Yeah, Jason Alexander. So, yeah, another one. Yeah, never trust the sidekicks in a fucking kids show. Unless like it's about.
Hey man, this movie so Bolt could run.
Yes, it's very true. This came out like 2 years before Bolt, I think. But yeah, I didn't despise it, and it was kind of refreshing a little bit, but still shit tier. So it just goes to show. And then at the top of shit tier for me is Mulan 2.
This was my second top of shit tier. So again, similar, but not quite.
Yes. I've heard people talk about
this one's a mess.
liking this film, and they only cite the one good thing about it, and that are the Emperor's daughters with the soldiers.
Mm-hmm.
That is legit the only good part, and it is a good part, but it's the only good part, and like that's like, I don't know, 27% of the film.
The bit that I like the second best, and the only reason that I put it like second in this one, they nearly killed off Shang. I would have put it at the top of shit tier if they kept him dead.
Yes.
They have the balls to do it and to like have him drop there, and it's horrific.
Yeah.
And like traumatizing the way that they do it. Like he has like a really like, oh my god, what do you mean? This is how he's gonna die.
Yeah.
Moment. and it works for them, and it works for like what they were doing with those characters. It's like the only character payoff that they actually have in that entire film.
Yes.
But they didn't keep it permanent, and it's like, you guys at cast should have kept him dead.
Out of all of the fake out deaths from a Disney thing, I feel like this was probably the most convincing. It's like you know it's not going to happen. It's like it's you know it's a fake out. You know it's obviously not going to happen because they're not going to kill any Disney, and it's not apparent at the beginning of the film or off screen. But it was like. I was like, oh, I know he's not dead, but he looks like he definitely could have been. Like, I know he's going to show up later, but that was kind of like, whoa, the kids are not going to know. They're not going to know he's instantly alive.
The first time I watched this, I knew that he was going to be okay, but I still, like, you know, got caught up by it, and I, like, cried a little bit because I was like, oh my god, he was willing to die to make sure she would have a chance to live. And the way that she, like, you know, she, like, thrusts the sword, like, into the cliff face, and she just cries in the middle of the storm. Like, she's just sitting there crying.
That sold it pretty well. Her reaction.
Yeah. That's the bit. That's why I was like, oh my god, if they had stuck to it, him to be dead.
Yeah.
This movie would be so much better.
It would be. But so right, and the relationship with the Emperor's daughters and the soldiers is kind of like you see it coming, you know which one's going to pair up with which one, but it's still kind of sweet. It's like they don't do it in a really like corny or schlocky way. It's like, you know what's going to happen.
No, they let you spend time with all of them so you actually see why they like each other.
But why it's such a shit movie is because out of all the things they could have done to have a conflict for Mulan 2, they made Mushu the fucking villain. And, like, why though? And
because he's jealous. And he wants to keep his job. And we have to undo the entire character development from the first one, where he was going to lose his job. And he decided that Mulan, and actually, you know, like a person and being a good person, was worth more than his job. And then he got to keep it. But the second one has to do the same thing again and go, well, your job's in danger. And he has to go, well, I've decided this time around it's more important to me.
Yeah, so I'm gonna
cue me being the
ruin their marriage so that he's not in charge of protecting her and I'll still be in charge of being her guardian. Yes, he does save it at the end by pretending to be, you know, the dragon statue or whatever, and be like, I'm your god, I'll tell you that, you know, Mulan doesn't have to marry this guy, and the princesses don't either, and you should thank me for it because I'm your god, and it works. But it's still all his fucking fault.
And then Shang also comes in with the clutch with the, like, when he joins the family temple so that Mushu can keep his job after Mulan has told him what Mushu did. Like, Shang still goes, you know what? I'm gonna give this guy a reward. He can keep his job. After being told all the bullshit that Shang had like, Shang nearly died for this.
I nearly died so you could keep your fucking job, bro.
Shang is the ultimate bro for that, honestly.
Yeah. So, yeah. Still a shitty movie. But it had a couple of good parts. And then I go to the low average. None of these movies are good by any stretch of the imagination. I just feel like they are a step above the shit tier. And I'm starting with the first one that I saw in this 8-month journey, Bambi 2, which is a midquel because, you know, what else are you going to do? And this is one of those midquels like, okay, this could have happened. This is totally fine.
Yeah.
Because of the amount of because we have a time skip in the first movie. And so this is part of that time skip where it's right after Bambi's mom gets gutted, gets fucking got, and Bambi's dad is like, shit, I'm a dude. I can't raise him. Yo, owl, fucking find some dough to raise my stupid fucking prince kid. And he's like, oh, I won't be able to find any in the winter because, it's winter and shit. And so he's like, all right, I'll take care of him for the winter. But spring comes, hand him off to some chick. And Bambi's father is voiced by Sir Patrick Stewart, who is using an American accent, and that shocked the fuck out of me.
Yep.
I had never heard him in an American accent in my life. But it's like, as soon as wait a minute, is that Patrick Stewart speaking in an American accent? This is weird. Also, they got Patrick Stewart to be in Bambi 2, a directed DVD midquel of one of the worst Disney films.
Don't have money.
So I have one small attachment to Bambi as a kid. When I was 2 months old, my godmother, who was a super Disney fan, season pass to Disneyland and everything, she gave me a Thumper stuffed animal, which I still have to this day, as well as other Thumpers. So I love Thumper. So I would only watch Bambi to see Thumper. And once that time skip happens, I'm outie 5,000 because I don't give a fuck about Bambi or Flower or mustachioed Thumper with fucking tiny Lola Bunny, right? I was like, I'm just here for him to be thumping and for them to be all tiny. And then I was like, Bambi, don't give a shit. Mom died, didn't give a fuck as a kid. I didn't care at all that Bambi's mom died as a kid. Didn't care at all.
Savage.
Yeah. I mean, people was like, oh, Bambi's mom died. Oh, Mufasa died. I was the ripe age for both of those things to have an impact on me. And they didn't. It's like, yeah, sad Mufasa died, but I wasn't scarred as a kid at all. Because I was just like, yeah, but Simba, though, he's like Jonathan Taylor Thomas. So, let's get to singing and shit. But Bambi 2 is, the animation's all right. It's one of the later ones. Mm-hmm. It's kind of why the fuck are we doing this now? Kind of a deal.
I'm pretty sure it's because it was the Bambi's anniversary. I feel like the DVD of this one had it's coming out of the vault along with Bambi 1 for the anniversary. Please buy it. Give us money.
Yes. I can't say for sure, and I don't think my parents can either. The first movie I ever saw in theaters, I think they said it was either Bambi or Dumbo, but they didn't remember which was me and which was my brother. So it's I'm supposed to like Bambi or something, but I don't. It's give me a t-shirt that has Thumper on it and I'm good. But Bambi, don't give a fuck about him. There is some Thumper footage, which does help this movie out, and his sisters and stuff. And the story's okay. It doesn't ruin the original. It doesn't add a lot to it. It's what happens? Oh, Bambi's dad is I can't raise this guy. Get some chick to do it. And at the end, he's like, well, I kind of got to know my son, so I guess I'll raise him. And then there's what were the enemy animals? Were they wolves? What were they?
Bears? Yes, because you also had the bully deer.
Yeah.
The one that
the schmuck deer
goes on to be his rival later. And then I think it was wolves, because I think we had a conversation about the stock noises from Fox and the Hound returning.
Yeah, that sounds right.
I put this one actually higher than you did. I put this one at the bottom of my middle average.
Uh-huh.
You and I basically have this one flipped around, essentially.
Right.
I like this movie better than I thought I did, because I watched this once as a kid, because I also don't particularly like Bambi.
Yes.
I watched it once as a kid and was like, I don't want to own it.
Mm-hmm.
it didn't even make enough on me that I was like, I would like to own this on DVD. But I liked it better than the last time. It actually has a little bit of charm, and I think that was what saved it for me. It has some charm. It's not, like you said, it doesn't really intrude upon the first one either. and they basically just wanted to be like, hey, you guys really like the kid version of all of the characters, so here you go. Here's more time with the kid version.
Yeah.
That's pretty much what it's there for.
Yeah, because it's like, oh, we're not gonna make Bambi 2 when he's like old and he's like the king and he's got, he's like an 8-point fucking deer. It's just like, yeah, of course we're just gonna do like a mid-quel and we're gonna get Patrick Stewart somehow because we have like his something hostage of his. But I did enjoy it more than I thought that I would, because like I looked at all the sequels and I was like, oh, Bambi 2, that can't be fucking good because I didn't like the first one. But it was like, it's not good, but like it's not shit tier to me.
No. Yeah.
And then we get Fox and the Hound 2 for me on my low average tier.
Oh, I put that one in shit. Yeah.
It is
Damn.
the worst offender when it comes to this couldn't have fucking happened because it's a mid-quel.
It couldn't have happened.
Yeah. There's no time for this film to have happened because we see every single day that Copper and Todd know each other, and then Copper then goes out on the hunting mission with his owner, and so we know that like there's no time. Like that was a couple that they knew each other for 2 days. There's no time for a mid-quel to have happened, so the entire this movie's existence is bullshit, which doesn't help it, but it wasn't a really crappy story, although it's still not memorable.
Copper goes and joins a doggy band, and the leading lady, who's a diva, is jealous of the little kid, so she tries to like muscle him out and is like, hey Todd, you should like go be an asshole and like out Copper for being an actually owned dog, because we don't let owned dogs into this band, it's only for strays.
Yeah, that's really stupid.
My lie has been revealed. We're gonna have to run off, and then the bears or the wolves, whichever of the two it is. It's always that in these movies.
Yes.
Whichever one, they just interchange the stock animal noises.
Yeah.
For whichever one they've decided this time.
This one was
until you end up getting them back.
It was probably bears because it was bear in the first one, right?
It might have been a bear. It might have been a bear again.
Yeah.
It was definitely stock noises. Yeah. Whichever one, it was definitely stock noises.
The plot, I should clarify, the plot isn't terrible compared to the shit tier. It's not good, and you could easily be like, oh wait, was that Scamp's Adventure? No, was that 100 Tailed Dalmatians 2? No, that was Fox and the Hound 2. It's like, there's nothing that makes any of these films really stand out. And the fact like Copper's gonna be in a band, yeah, that's really dumb. That's really dumb. And then, so it's like, now Copper's getting famous and like Todd feels left out and like, oh, you gotta leave your friends behind, you're gonna be a big shot.
This entire movie has to take place over like 3 days to a week.
Yeah.
In the 0 seconds that they have free in the original movie.
Much like with what 3 of these other films, it's got a fucking carnival in it. Why do they keep bringing carnivals to make these sequels and mid-quels? I think it's really dumb how many of these have a fucking carnival in it.
Because it's easy for bringing in strangers into town, so then you can have all these plots that don't really matter as soon as the strangers
leave. Yeah, especially if it's like really far in the past where like traveling really didn't happen. So like, what's the one thing that traveled back then? I don't know, a circus?
A traveling dog singing band.
Yes, the classic. We've all heard of those dog singing bands. You know, maybe if like the lead singer was voiced by George Clooney, I don't know. Yeah, this movie, it didn't really work, and it didn't run off of the charm of the first film. It's almost like a different genre.
It is a different genre.
Yeah, it's not good, but I don't know. Animation's alright. The Fox and the Hound, they're cute. They're supposed to be friends. I like also like when are you supposed to watch this movie? It's like you're supposed to watch Fox and the Hound for like 30 minutes and then stop and watch Fox and the Hound 2 and then finish the rest of Fox and the Hound. Because its existence makes no fucking sense, and A, it couldn't have happened, and B, it's like it doesn't make sense within like the story. It's like, was this written? You'd be like, was this written by a different author? If like this was like the second book in the series, be like, this doesn't match the first book at all in anything. It's such a tonal shift in every way. And then for me, I got Cinderella 3.
Yeah, this is probably the biggest disparity in between the two of us.
You have it much higher?
Oh yeah, baby. It's the second one in my actually good tier.
Oh. Yeah, but you like Cinderella.
I do like Cinderella.
I don't like Cinderella.
She's spunky, and she's a lot more like spunky than people give her credit for. I actually really like Cinderella. But no, again, they bring back Anastasia's development, but they do it in its own plot this time. Mm-hmm. But they basically were like, okay, what if we played around with the concept of how the original one ends, and we changed it up? And that's fun. That is fun, of being like, okay, we actually have magic in this universe, like it's explained.
Yes.
And it makes sense for
Fairy
there to be
godmother
magic
just
in
leaves
this
her
universe.
fucking wand on the ground. That's like the dumbass she is.
She doesn't leave it on the ground. She flings it while she's singing. Yeah. It just happens to come out of her.
God, what a fucking idiot.
And Anastasia picks it up and then argues with her and turns her into a statue.
Yeah.
For the rest of the movie, until she magically appears in the church to be unfrozen. But yeah, so they undo it. Lady Tremaine gets a hold of the wand because Anastasia comes back and is like, Cinderella used magic. Let's use magic. Mm-hmm. Lady Tremaine basically goes Maleficent for a hot second, which, obviously because they use the same voice actresses also. Yeah. Nice little bit of meta irony there, Disney. Thank you. And she rewinds it and is like, okay, I'm going to force the prince into thinking that Anastasia was the one that he danced with, and I'm going to magically enlarge the slipper so it fits her. So now we're gonna go to the palace instead. Cinderella can do whatever the hell.
Yeah.
And so Cinderella's like, I'm not standing for that shit. Hold up. So then they have to go and fight over the wand and try and convince the prince, what actually happened. So you get to see all the different characters interacting with each other and explore the dynamic more, and then they give you Cinderella's official foot size.
Oh god.
As they're joking and talking about it. And they go back and
the internet went crazy. Nice like, yeah, feet.
Yeah. 4.5.
Which makes Cinderella 1 even less plausible. It's like, she was the only 4.5 in the whole kingdom. Yeah, okay.
Mm-hmm. Listen, as a 4.5 myself.
Of course you are, you princess.
But yes, it's
for those of you who don't know, animals legit follow Kiri around, and they sing songs and they knit little outfits for her.
But yeah, Prince Charming gets all the characters.
He does
in this one, and
he comes up pretty well.
He's great. He's mental. He jumps out a window.
Yeah, he does.
To go follow Cinderella. And I'm sure a lot of you have probably seen the out of context clip of "I forbid you from taking another step down these stairs." Side glance, okay, jumps out window. That's what that's from. It is Cinderella free. They give him a lot of development. They give Cinderella a lot of development. Everybody gets some screen time to kind of go into them a little bit more. The fucked up thing is that they changed Lucifer into a human.
Oh, God.
And he nearly murders Cinderella. It's really like, oh, okay, alrighty. And they do bring back some of the side characters from the second one. Like Prudence, she gets her appearance where she's there and she's like, I'm in charge of running things around here. Who are you? What are you doing? And you're like, there you go. Yeah, you're bringing it back. But no, they do some fun stuff with it. So I absolutely agree. It's not, for me, it's a nostalgia-based one. Mm-hmm. There's parts of it which are not good. So I'm not gonna sit here and be like, you should elevate it. Fair enough for putting it in low average. Yeah. It's a movie. It's definitely
a movie.
It didn't need to exist.
Yes. And I kind of like didn't want it to. Not that I didn't like want to see. Not I didn't want a sequel, but also like I don't want to see Lady Tremaine again. Like, I don't want to see fucking bippity boppity. Oh, I dropped my wands. It's like, fucking, you suck. Like, we thought Merlin was bad in Kingdom Hearts. Be like, what are you fucking teaching us, dude? And then, but it's fucking, and apparently it's really easy to use magic. You just need a wand, and you're just like, I can do whatever I want. I know the spells magically. I just gotta make something
Yeah,
rhyme.
it definitely puts a spell on the fact that all you have to say at the end of stating your demands of the magic is to say bibbidi bobbidi boo, and it will do it.
And
like, she doesn't need
yeah,
the song. Like, Fairy Godmother doesn't need the song or the extended sentences. She just needs to say, hey, turn back tide and time before Cinderella got her happily ever after bibbidi bobbidi boo. It'll do it.
And the part that got me fucking furious in this is that the fairy godmother fucking forgot what she says to make magic happen. It's like, bitch.
Oh, you were straight fuming. You were fuming.
I was like, motherfucker, what? You sang those words for half that original fucking movie, and it was blown in every kid's ears for a full fucking decade. And you're like, what was that word again? Bippity boppity boo? You can't fucking remember that? It's the only thing you say, bitch. Like, oh my god, I hate her.
Was it the third one or was it the second one? That might have been when she was trying to turn Jacques into a human.
Either way.
Or fix it.
Either way.
It's the second one. No, it is the second one because it is in Jacques' story though, because it's at the end.
Yeah, you're right.
With the elephant rampaging around.
Yeah.
And she's like, what were the words to fix it? I have to turn Jacques back into a mouse as he's standing there with like a hand out, like that's gonna stop the elephant.
Yeah, but it just makes me hate her even more. And she's just like, I'm dancing and there goes my wand. It's like, what in the original like film, what happens there? Does she like go back and be like, oh, where'd I drop that? We missed that scene.
No, because she just lets them continue on. Like, she gives them the option to go back to their original lives because the entire story starts on like their first wedding anniversary.
Yeah.
She gives them the opportunity to go back to their former lives, and both Charming and Cinderella like, Nani? Former lives? And she's like, never mind. I'll just leave the
Right. Yeah.
That's what's more like messed up. That she's like, oh, you guys just want to like have a relationship based on trauma and like all of this shit, and that's fine. I'll just leave that be. I won't put it back.
Yeah.
Leave it fucked up. It's fine.
Not a fan of that hoe. That brings us to the number one offender of this is just the fucking same movie again, Brother Bear 2. If you haven't seen Brother Bear 2, but you have seen Brother Bear 1, you have seen Brother Bear 2. Because it's the exact same fucking story, except he's already a bear at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
So, to be honest, and I've only saw Brother Bear once in theaters, I think it's better than the original. Because it's got...
That's why I put this at the bottom of high average. It is better than
the original. It is better than the original because we have less of annoying little brother voice, Cub. that alone puts... Like, we don't have Rick Moranis as a moose, eh? But, at the same time, it's just the same. It's just the same. It's the same one, except like, oh, here's the girl that he knew when they were humans, and now she's like, oh, so that's what happened to you. All right, let's get this talisman or this necklace or whatever the fuck. And then she's like, oh, and he's like, oh, you want to leave me and become a human again so you could fuck her? And he's like, no, that's not it at all. And she's like, all right, I'll be a bear, then we can fuck. And it's like, cool. Why? It's like this had to be one of the shortest gaps between the direct to DVD and the original.
Yeah, it might be.
I think probably the only one that might be closer is this one of the Stitch ones.
I was going to say Stitch might be closer, but this is pretty close.
It's pretty close, because I want to say, like, Return of Jafar, that was, like, 3 or 4 years after the first one. Anyways, so, Brother Bear 2 is not good. It's better than the original, which is really bad. as far as I can remember, I only saw it in theaters whenever that came out, 2002 or whatever. But it's just the first film again. And that's not going to get any points. And who wanted there to be a sequel? I certainly didn't.
I did not.
But it happened, and we watched it. That brings me to the second highest on my low average tier, Peter Pan 2, which I did not know was a thing. Which is a sequel. But the main flaw with it is that it's a fucking Peter Pan movie, and Robin Williams isn't in it, so it sucks.
Yeah.
It's like, we need to let Peter Pan die. I'm sorry if that orphanage needs money that Barry gave the rights to, but we needed to let it die. It's never been good. It's never been... No, please.
The nursery I went to in England was actually named after him. It's called the Peter Pan Nursery.
Oh, that's right. I have heard of that.
I put this one in middle average purely because I like the dynamic in between Jane and Peter better than I do Peter and Wendy.
Agreed.
That's it.
Yes.
The fact that Jane is more willing to be like, Peter, feck off.
Yeah.
That's it.
Well, it makes sense because this kid grew up in fucking World War I.
World War I.
So, and she's like by herself in the streets wearing a war helmet, like getting shit for her family. So it's like, yeah, I can believe that she's like a little bit more, have jaded than her mom was back in the day.
Yeah.
But also, like, how the fuck did Hook even know where the hell they were in order to kidnap her? Like, that doesn't make any sense.
No, it really doesn't.
He like this isn't Hook. He didn't kidnap them in the original film. He, like, as far as we know, he hadn't been to the quote unquote real world, even though the book Second Star on the Right is a nautical term. It's actually a place on Earth. In the fucking Disney film, they're like, oh, it's space, and we just we cut away. Whatever.
And he also couldn't leave it in the first one. Like, that was his whole point for terrorizing the kids, is that he's like, well, I can't leave. I am stuck here. I'm supposed to be from Earth, and I am bound here. I can't fucking leave. What the shit? And then the second one, he just turns up, and you're like, oh, I guess he could leave then, huh?
Yeah,
because he just flies at the star. He just flies at the star, and is like, well, we're going through the kaleidoscope, and now we're in Neverland.
Yeah.
And you're like, so he can leave? Why doesn't he just leave and stay left?
There's so much that he could do with the power of flight and being a fucking pirate. I mean, it's
because he definitely does that without pixie dust. He's definitely doing it without pixie dust.
Yeah, which
the ship is just
it's like, so
up.
Hook knows magic. We're just gonna gloss over that, kind of like the circus in Notre Dame do. And also, miracle he didn't get shot down by AA cannons, because it's World War I England, bro, and you're in a fucking pirate ship.
To be fair, his ship starting, like, and arriving clearly does start that raid.
Yes.
Like, they very clearly start the raid sirens, because they're like, oh my god, and it's like, and
of course, it has Peter Pan in it, so he hasn't changed whatsoever, because he's fucking Peter Pan, so he's still a piece of shit.
Still a piece of shit, but at least it makes sense. He's consistent,
I guess, but it's like, we don't need more Peter Pan.
I'm not giving them praise for it. I'm just stating
it is consistent, but it's like, we didn't need more of this fucking shithead that has no redeeming qualities whatsoever.
No. And they also nearly kill off Tinkerbell, but also don't.
Yeah.
Again, once again with the fake out death, but it's done in like such a poor way where you're like, this isn't gonna stick. There's no like possibility of it sticking.
No, yeah.
You don't believe that it's ever gonna stick. At least Shang was like, wow, there's like a 0.1% chance that this could stick. Think about it, like, no.
Yeah, and because like
Yeah, she's gonna start believing after Tinkerbell's dead, and it's gonna revive her. It's fine.
yeah, because like we're kind of like contingent on getting the fairy dust and getting her to fly home.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like it has to
And we
happen.
also want to start a series about her later on.
Oh God.
Not yet, but soon.
And then okay. We are not gonna do a whole podcast on the Tinkerbell extended universe. That's not happening.
We could,
That's
though.
not happening.
Well, we could. I've seen most of them. You can watch them again. It'll be all good.
So
listen, we just have to do the Cars one first, and then we can do Tinkerbell.
Okay, so Tarzan 2 is a midquel. Tarzan is still a child. And it is not a TV show. It is a movie. The animation's pretty good, and it tells a story. And it's got the late, great George Carlin somehow. Which...
Listen, they gave them a budget.
I thought there was no way in fuck that it's like, yeah, Disney's going to land George Carlin for a movie, and also it's going to be a direct-to-DVD one. It's like, that's one of the last people I thought would do that, but hey, it happened, and it's not terrible.
No, I put it like last in my low average. It's not terrible, but it's not. It doesn't really have anything of substance for me.
Right. I feel like its strength kind of, if you ignore the fact that he's a human boy in the jungle, it's kind of just, it's a standalone film that has nothing to do with Tarzan.
Yeah.
Because it's like, oh, he could have been just another animal, and this is just its own movie. So like that's like, it helps it as like, oh, it's a non-threatening midquel, or the stakes are kind of low, but like the story, it works. There's no giant leaps. There's no supernatural bullshit. There's nothing that, oh, this would have been brought up in the first film. It's like, no, its existence is inoffensive to the original film, or Tarzan and Jane, even for that matter. It's just a short little story that happens, and it's okay. But it didn't need to happen.
Other than the mother with her son gorillas, where they're like, we've been trapped here and we're gonna like torture these kids.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but you needed to.
As soon as the movie introduces them, that's when it's like, yeah. Okay.
But when you hear that when you know that the threatening thing is actually just old George Carlin yelling into a tree trunk, you have to create an actual villain.
Yeah.
Because then there's no stakes. Then it's just like, oh, then I'm just gonna leave the canyon and everything's fine. And then it's like,
yeah, but like them, that's what I'm like.
Yeah, they could have been better.
That is my.
It could have been better.
That is them.
Could have been worse. But because like they needed to be scared, right? They needed to be scared by the George Carlin monkey's booming voice that he uses amplified through the tree trunk. So you couldn't have them be too smart or too threatening, because they had to be scared in order to be trapped in that canyon.
Yes, and that's why they have Mrs. Potato Head as their mother.
Yeah. I mean, you gotta have your angry eyes just in case. That's what I say. So, like, I feel like if I was a kid, like, I'd watch that more than once. And I felt like that puts it at the top of low average for me.
I like that you feel that way, because this is one of the ones where I was like, I've watched this once, I don't need to watch it again.
As an adult, I don't need to, but if I was a kid and it was like, oh well, I already saw Tarzan recently, yeah, I'll watch Tarzan too. Why not? It's fine. And then that's the end of low average, and that brings us the amount of movies are shrinking. Middle average, starting with Lady and the Tramp 2. Scamp gets a girlfriend.
Scamp's Adventure.
Yeah.
Scamp's Adventure.
But he also gets a girlfriend.
This one was flipped in our rankings. Yes, he does also get a girlfriend. You put this at the last, like the bottom end for middle average. I had it at the top of my middle average. So it's similar.
Interesting.
Similar. Mm-hmm.
So this one, I didn't know existed.
Oh boy, you sure didn't.
And if you guys are wondering why is Kiri laughing, if you Google image search for this film, you will see, oh, the internet.
Also, the Disney Plus art for it.
Right. So,
with Angel.
This is a movie for furries. I'm just gonna put it out there. And they're fans. They are fans of these furry creatures, these dogs. To an unexpected extent from the Disney executives and producers of this film, I'm sure. At the time, the world was a little bit more innocent. We were kind of getting there. We were kind of getting there. You know, people were like, well, we're starting to get aware of DeviantArt. But you know, it wasn't on everybody's mind. We didn't know the rules of the internet at this point.
Well, especially a good time if you were in the Lady and the Tramp fandom, cross the 101 Dalmatians fandom, specifically for them, so you can have your dramatic love triangle images. Shout out.
I took off my glasses and I'm shaking my head, and I'm just. Everyone's just don't.
You do you, internet. You have a good time, y'all.
They are. So this one is one of those. It's the same movie but reversed. So Scamp is the lone son of Lady and Tramp,
which is in the first one. Like they did obviously keep the kids that were present at the end of the original, just so that we're clear. They didn't just come up with these kids
right?
Out of thin air
they definitely boned. But it's animals, so it's like okay. And he is indoor dog, and he wants to be a street dog. Unbeknownst to him that his dad used to be one, and then he eventually starts hearing legends of the Tramp, and finds out toward the end of the movie that it is in fact his dad. And so he was like, "You don't understand, Dad. You don't know what it's like being out there in the streets. Everyone's free and having fun." And he's like, "Yeah, okay, kid. You telling me about the streets? Fucking, I invented the streets, bro."
In the same vein of Melody telling Ariel that she knows nothing about the sea.
Exactly.
Ariel's like, ah!
Yeah. So this just Little Mermaid 2 too. But not as bad. So like he gets in with some junkyard dogs because there's this hot piece of ass that he's, you know, looking at. And there's a very weird relationship.
That's the leader.
There's a very weird relationship between Angel and the dog that is the same age as Tramp's dad. I will just leave it at that. He is the leader.
Upsetting.
And it is upsetting at how he communicates with this obvious puppy.
Voiced by Alyssa
Milano.
Alyssa Milano, yep.
Yeah.
It's so upsetting. Like, it was upsetting as a kid watching this. Like, I watched this one a lot as a kid. Because I have a fondness for this one because it's just cute. Like, it is the reversal, and you're like, eh. But it's just cute and light and just kind of easy to watch.
Yeah.
So I like this one. I like this one quite a bit. But, like, Butch and Angel is always upsetting because he is constantly trying to hit on her, and you're like, listen, she's a little bit older than Scamp. She is definitely not that much older.
Yeah, she's definitely not a year old. And Butch is definitely multiple years old. So yeah, it's got problems. It's got problems. But as a story goes, like as a sequel, you know, what are you gonna do with Lady and the Tramp 2, right? It's like yeah, sure, why not do it backwards? Whatever. You have,
and they got their own like love song as well. To be fair, like they did, you know, they didn't just rehash the same one. They actually got their own.
Right, and I would say it's probably more entertaining than the original. Not to say that it's better, but more is going on.
And it also doesn't have the racism.
It doesn't have the racism. That's always a plus, as we mentioned in our live action podcast, which you can watch. That's like 100 hours long because yep. So yeah, I feel like kids would like the sequel more than the original, and
I certainly did.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, so do I. And that's why it's a middle average. And speaking of middle average, it doesn't get more middle than half. We're talking about Lion King 1.5. Let's go, folks.
Or Lion King 3, depending on your region.
Yes, but when my sister was little and they got this DVD for her, it was called Lion King 1.5. And I'm in America.
When on my DVD, it was on Lion King 3.
But America made it, and in this country, it's Lion King 1.5. Which I recognize is both a bad title and also accurate.
It's more accurate. It's definitely
it's not a sequel. It is a midquel. And if you're asking, well, shouldn't it be called Lion King 1/2? You are correct, but you can't name a movie that. I do realize that there was a special edition DVD of the first X-Men movie called X-Men 1.5. That
Seriously?
Yes, there was, because I think it had deleted scenes or featured. I don't know what it is. I saw it in Walmart. I never watched it.
Normally you just shove them in the DVD and you put them in the extras and you go, here's the deleted scenes, and you go, cool.
Yeah. So.
Or you say extended cut.
This one I did see the year it came out. And I thought it was rather clever. It was the first midquel that I had ever seen. And they don't take it super seriously because it's Timon and Pumbaa retelling the first film from their perspective from start to finish. So we get Timon's origin with his meerkat family, how he meets Pumbaa, how they behind the scenes affected things that happened in Lion King 1, which is funny and it's clever. Like, they're the reason that the I just can't wait to be king Tower of Animals collapses. I thought that was pretty funny when I first saw this. And it's Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are dead, but with Timon and Pumbaa, because Lion King is just Hamlet. So it's even extra clever because of that. So like that just gives it points on the back end for me. And
this was my middle high average. Like I like this one.
Yeah, it is objectively not bad. It didn't need to exist, but it acknowledges that in a sense. Because they're like Mystery Science 3000 theatering like their own film. The overall, it doesn't need to exist, and it kind of doesn't stand on its own. Like, you need to watch the first movie. You absolutely have to see Lion King for Lion King 1.5 to work, which, like, you could say that about any of the others, but it's like, you can watch Pocahontas 2, it's like, oh, she knew that guy before. You can watch Mulan 2 without knowing, it's like, oh, she took her dad's spot in the army. Because, like, they're all kind of like their own stories. Bambi 2 it could be a completely untethered film from the original, or Fox and the Hound 2, or Dalmatians 2. But Lion King 1.5...
Because Bambi starts off being like Bambi comes dead. So
Lion King 1.5 relies on its source material more than any of the others. Which isn't a necessarily bad thing, because of course you watch Lion King, it's a great movie. But it doesn't stand out as like, oh, let's go watch Lion King 1.5. It's like, I already saw it. I don't know.
You know what this is? This is Chain of Memories.
Ouch.
It's the Chain of Memories equivalent. No. Chain of Memories has a good story, but it's also tied down from the way that it, like, the gameplay a little bit, but the way that it forces you to go through the first one again.
You are 100% correct. You are 100% correct.
Like, there's really good stuff in there in both of them. Like, that's why I'm comparing it. Like, there's good stuff in there. It's just completely tied to how much you like the original, because it's inescapable.
Yes.
It doesn't make sense if you don't know what happened in the first one.
And it is in itself a midquel as well.
Yeah, because it recontextualizes
Yes,
things as well. So
absolutely. Except Lion King 1/2's like, let's make it funny, and in the other one we get card games.
Listen, but you also get Marluxia.
Yes, this is true.
But yeah, so 1.5/3 is a good time. It is a really, really good time. And they do play around. That's probably one of like the best examples of them poking fun at themselves inside of the movie, because a lot of them do. Like a lot of these sequels will take like small little jabs at themselves or at the original. But this one is like entirely like, let's just take the piss out of it and have a good time.
Yeah, it's clever, and it was not like a super, what we could do next. Like, this was not an obvious, like they had to go down the list to be like, what if we do this? And then a couple people chuckled, and then like, wait a minute, let's actually do that, and it kind of works. And then that brings us to my one that I'm pretty sure I've seen the most, Return of Jafar. This one gets nostalgia points for me. Obviously, I had this and King of Thieves. It came out beforehand, so I probably have seen it more times than King of Thieves, because it is the second one. We don't get Robin Williams. Obviously, that hurts the film. Jafar comes back, as you might be able to tell from the title. It doesn't hold a candle to Aladdin 4. Jafar may need glasses, or Aladdin 5. Oh shit! What was Aladdin 5? Jafar does the census. Oh, Family Guy, you're funny. But having rewatched it for the first time in over 20 years, it's not as good as I remembered. It's not.
Yeah, I don't like this one very much, to be like, I love Aladdin in general, like the concept and series. But I don't like Return of Jafar, and I almost don't know how to tell you why. Like, it looks terrible.
Yes.
They clearly didn't have a budget for this one. That's part of it.
We made some memes.
We did make some memes. We have memes from Aladdin. It was a good time. But like it's just kind of boring as well. Like what they do with it being like, Jafar's come back, and this is what we're gonna do with it. Like, they barely focus on Jafar being back and the consequences of that for like over half the movie, and then they're like, okay, well, time to actually deal with Jafar now that he's back. And the show plays around with that much better, because they like add in his sister, and they do stuff in the show, and I think that it was probably meant to kind of lead into the show and set that up. But unlike The Little Mermaid 3, where I was like, that kind of works for leading into the show, I don't think Return of Jafar does, because it's like, it's
and once again also has Jason Alexander as Abysmal.
Yes, and they do bring in Iago, and they bring him back, and they do the redemption, quote unquote. That's fine. I don't hate that in any way, shape, or form. Like, that's fine. And bringing back Jafar in concept is also fine. It's just that you have to do it through the vehicle of Abysmal, and having him hang around, and then having him be the villain. And we have to have like relationship drama in between Jasmine and Aladdin, because they can't be happy. We can't leave a happy couple alone.
Yes,
we have to mess with them in some way.
The typical movie sequel hetero romance of they have problems, and because we can't just like actually write a script. We can't write a story of two people in love. They have to fall out of love and then get back together, or it's like, and
have a musical number about it. Don't forget, we have Lea Salonga because she's cheaper.
Yeah. I hate it when movies do that. They always do it. And it's just like, they broke up after the first movie and they get back together in the second, or they have problems and they need to reconnect. It's like, listen, there's a reason Asuna and Kirito are so fucking good together, and why fucking Hiccup and Astrid are one of the better couples. It's just like, show me the couple being a couple and being in love and growing that love, not just like, we're running into troubles. I don't fucking
And we're not
care.
saying don't have them have issues. Like, that's
Yeah.
fine. Like, you can have them have issues in their relationship. Like, that's not
Yeah,
what we're
show
saying.
us
But what we're
Ariel
saying is,
having that conversation with Philip
with
about
Eric,
with Eric about so you've been eating my
Melody.
friends for years. And he's like, whoopsies. Well, it's a most of our trade is from fish. We can't, otherwise the kingdom will revolt and kill us. We have to keep fishing. I want to see that. That's the conversation I want to see. None of the like contrived nonsense.
Yes, they can have issues. That's fine, but you have to write them as actual issues and not contrivances. Because the only reason that they have that issue is so then Iago can bring them back together, and they can be like, "Well, now we're just grateful to Iago for our relationship being
The
happy."
great
Like, or if you just talk to each
misunderstandings.
other. Yeah, if you just talked, like just talk.
Yeah. If we didn't treat this like an episode of Three's Company, we'd be fine.
And I think as well I think what probably also irked me as well is the way that they play with the balance between Jafar and Genie when he comes back. And they have like their little throwback.
Yeah.
Because then they have to be like, well, Genie's like not as powerful because he's freed. And Jafar like wanted to be the most powerful. And it's like, and yet, how are you going to solve this?
Like with you
really
and Little Mermaid 2, this gets more points just for pure nostalgia for me. It does not deserve to be as high as where it is.
Fine. That's
but like
fair.
I would watch it and be like, oh, I remember that, and then he's gonna do this. It's like, yeah, that jewel, because like it's like a flower, and it's like, ah, yeah, fucking Abba's small.
I did watch this one a lot. This one a lot, and I wasn't like angry about it, but.
And that brings us to the high average tier, which
your only entry.
My only entry in high average.
My highest entry, so we do at least match here again.
Beauty and the Beast, the Enchanted Christmas special.
Yeah.
This was like, what, 1998? 99?
Yep.
One of those.
Yep.
It came out with a Barbie. My mom had it. And
so
it's so, like, I did have this VHS, obviously, growing up. I didn't watch it a lot, because, like, it's like, you're not going to watch it when it's, like, not Christmas time.
Oh, I did.
For me, obviously you did. You don't even have to tell me. We all know. Like, people who watch it, hear you for the first time, like, we know. We knew. We've been new. So, you know, it doesn't necessarily hurt it. That's like, oh, it's a Christmas movie. But as a Christmas special, as its relationship to the actual holiday, I think does pretty well. Like, it is a mid-quel. We still have, you know, the Beast, but it's just over a couple of short days. We get a new villain, and it's a good one.
Yeah, Tim Curry.
Tim Curry, he's a fucking organ, and he's CG.
CGI.
A CGI in a fucking 2D cartoon. And as a kid, I didn't notice that at fucking all, because I'm just watching the Beauty and the Beast Christmas special. But it's pretty good. And it's got good original music, and it kind of like gets you in the fucking Christmas spirit, and like, what more could you want from anything that's Christmas themed? And it's got a good conflict and resolution, and it doesn't hurt anything in the original film. I mean, sure, it's entirely plausible, contained within, and you know, we do see that, like, in the original, like, the time goes and it starts snowing and they have the snowball fight. So, you know, sure, you know, in the original movie, maybe, you know, they're glossing over the fact that that room that we never talked about, it's been destroyed now. And there was a thing that happened during Christmas, but that's fine, because, like, we're just going to have this, you know, will they, won't they, you know, song about, you know, not seeing something that wasn't there before because they're throwing snowballs at each other and they're feeding birds. But it's got new characters, and they aren't all fucking annoying and stupid, and it works as a holiday movie, and is pretty good on its own.
Yep. And they do show you, like, it's basically one of the other, like, anecdotal flashback ones because they do frame it as being like, now that we're all human, we're all gonna go have a nice, lovely little Christmas in the palace. And then they're talking around about, oh, did you hear about the time that I saved Christmas? Actually, it was Belle.
Actually, it was the main character of all these movies. Who'd have thunk it?
And they ended again outside of that, back at the of everybody post story. So it's framed as being a midquel within a sequel, kind of like Lion King 3, because Lion King 3 was also like, we're gonna sit down in the cinema and watch the first movie and then be like, actually, let's talk about ourselves. But yeah, no, it's good stuff.
Yeah.
Not entirely perfect, which is what knocks it out of the actually good.
Yeah.
But
it'd be something that I would recommend. It's like, oh, you haven't seen it, and it's December. Let's watch Belle's Enchanted Christmas. It's worth a watch. If anything, because like, yo, let's fucking watch Tim Curry go, baby. You just watched like Muppet Treasure Island, and you're like, man, I need some more. And Clue isn't on Disney Plus, so let's just fucking put on Enchanted Christmas.
And he's a good villain because he's like, they show you the relationship that he has in between himself and the Beast. And they show you, like, they go into the idea of, hey, so the servants kind of feel like it's their own fault that the Beast turns out like a little bit of a shithead. But we're not going to show you that they're like close because they're too afraid of him. And then they're like, okay, but this time he's actually like, Forte is an actual mentor relationship with Prince Adam. So you get to see that it's like, okay, no, like Beast is looking up to Forte. He's looking for Forte to like mentor him.
Yes. And yeah.
So you get to see that, and that's where the manipulation comes in. And it's not always super thrown in your face. It's like quite subtle. He's being like, well, I've been here for you all this time. Are you trying to go against me? And it's like, And
you can see from an at least slightly unhinged person's mind why they'd be like, no, I want to be a fucking organ. I can make all this awesome music. And so I'm like, I've evolved, It's like, you can totally like understand that. It's entirely plausible.
Yeah, because he's like he might be the only servant who's like happy about what he was doing, like that he was made into his one personality trait, that's what he is.
Sure, yeah. I mean,
because all the rest of them are like, I want to be a human again, or I want to do
no, except for the dog, that's just a footrest. I mean, because it's still just a dog.
Yeah, well,
granted, he doesn't get to eat.
Five seems pretty content.
Yeah,
Five seems pretty content. Other than that, he doesn't like have
Five just liked positive reinforcement.
Being a human.
Five just wanted to be appreciated and loved.
That's fair. It's so valid.
He doesn't care like what form he is. He's just like, I just want attention and I want people to like me for who I am.
You go, Five.
Yeah. So then we have the actually good tier. These are movies where I'll be like, yeah, that was actually good, and not like just for, a Disney directed DVD or VHS sequel. These are like legit, like actually good, and like I wouldn't say any of them are great or groundbreaking. It's like, oh my god, you have to watch this. But like as far as sequels goes, these are pretty good. And we'll start that off with Kronk's New Groove, which I was aware of. I just never seen it, and I think that it didn't have a good rating, like a Rotten Tomatoes rating or something at the time that I had checked it out. Because, like, I love Emperor's New Groove. That's one of my favorite Disney movies of all time. And, I'd seen some of the Emperor's New School, and so it's just kind of just something that's like, I'm not going to watch it, but, we're doing it, and I watched it, and it's pretty good. It's just 3 episodes tied together. But at the very least, it's one of those like 3 episodes that tell one story kind of a thing that like a lot of animated shows will do, either in just like their first like 2 episodes, or it'll be like one long, episode that starts off a season. It's kind of like in that vein, except there's not like a ton of drama. Kronk's not like fighting, some king or something. It's Emperor's New Groove. It's just funny. And that's what you want.
With Patrick Warburton still being Kronk. So, they brought him back. They managed to
everybody back.
I put this one
Didn't they?
Pretty much. I put this one a little bit higher because I watched this one a lot as a kid. Like this is a little bit of a nostalgia one, but I also just really enjoy this one because it's Kronk's such a himbo, but they
Mhm.
they put a really nice message into each of the mini
They
episodes,
do.
and I think that they connected
Yeah.
it really well. Like it makes sense the three that they put together in the way that they did. It's like, no, that makes sense. That makes sense as to why this one is a whole thing
Yeah.
altogether. And you get to see more Yzma, which she's great,
Yes.
iconic. We love
Yes.
her. And you get to see a little bit more of the chipmunk kids, the troopers, because you actually get to see Kronk's like relationship with them, and you also get to see like Kronk falling in love. And listen, the fact, completely different issue, but listen, don't tell me he's anything more or less than a bisexual, but that's fine, whatever. They give him a girlfriend, and it's like their relationship is sweet. It's
Yes.
developed. They go from the enemies to lovers, with like
Rivals,
rivals to
yes,
lovers
yes.
rather, because they, yes. And it's sweet and it's developed, and you get to see how well they click together, and they have actual chemistry together. So giving him a girlfriend actually works because they have actual chemistry. You're like, yep, that makes sense. And Tito's the one that messes it up, and Tito's the one that fixes it. It's not like Iago. Like it's completely different where they have the like, oh, they had to break up or have a conflict, and then it's fixed by another character. Like, no, this makes sense as to what happened and why. And there's a little bit of a just talk in there, but it doesn't bother you that much.
Yeah.
It's much less of a bother.
Exactly.
And they like have him. They kind of go into Kronk's personality through the 3 episodes, and that's why it works, because each of them is like, oh, he's like this because of this, or he does this because of this, or he thinks this because of this. It all makes complete sense. And they bring in his dad, and they like kind of use that as the main framing of being like, his dad's coming to visit, and I need to have this, this, and this. And then he gets to the end, and he's like, actually, I don't need those arbitrary like checklist items. I'm living my best life.
Yeah.
And his dad approves because he is living his best life.
He absolutely is. So yeah, there's no faults to this film. I don't think.
No.
Yeah, there's nothing we could really nitpick on. They don't like fall into a lot of things that other movies do with like misunderstandings and like contrivances, or like forced romance that doesn't really match or work well. And it's also funny. Like there's,
if you don't like Kuzco's cut-ins, that's probably the thing that I would say.
Right.
Would be the like main thing. If you were gonna nitpick something, it probably would be Kuzco's cut-ins.
Yeah.
Of being like, we have to stop the movie so I can do my bit.
Yeah.
But other than that, like, it's fine.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong.
Kuzco's poison. Poison specifically made to kill Kuzco. Yeah, it's I feel like this, the actually good tier is like you can kind of really shuffle around a bit. And then I know this doesn't count, but I did watch Rescuers Down Under, which I did have as a kid. I did have both of them. I remember they're like, oh, this is the one with the eagle. Like that's like all I remembered from it.
That is the main point.
Yeah. As a kid, it's like, oh, it's like, okay, there's the one with the swamp and the alligators and the girl, and then this one has the boy with the eagle. And I think as a kid, I couldn't really decide on which one I liked better. I'm sure the first one is more beloved because it's the first one. And I do think now, having watched it with 25-year older eyes than before, I feel like the first one is better. The second one one's a much different story. But it doesn't have that thing that we hate, and that the couple, they're advancing their relationship. Like, it starts with Bernard trying to propose, and it's like, that's great. It's like we get like a little bit of payoff about like these two characters that like are the only similar characters from the first one.
Yes, it does. Like, that is my nitpick. It does bug me that he's constantly interrupted, and it bugged me in Frozen 2 when the same thing was happening, but it bugged me less in this one. Much less. Much less. And you can see that there's a little bit of a downgrade in the budget, but they did try
Mhm.
to still stylize it in much the same way. So, it's like what they tried to do with Atlantis, but they did it much better for less money than they had in the original. And I like this one. I had it in the same place
Yeah.
as you, like comparatively.
And if we were to add the other two Disney sequels, Wreck-It Ralph Breaks the Internet and Frozen 2, they would also be in the actually good tier. So just to put that out there, I think both of those movies are good. I feel like Frozen 2 is probably the best. Frozen 2 is amazing. I don't care what anybody says. I'll fight you. And then that brings me to Aladdin the King of Thieves. I feel like probably the second most beloved of these as far as the general public goes.
Mm-hmm.
People love Aladdin, and he's got a zaddy.
Mm-hmm.
Robin Williams is back.
He is back in this one,
and there's a better conflict than Return of Jafar,
and the return of the horny jokes as well.
Yes, much horny. I mean, at the very least, it was supposed to start with the wedding, so they weren't like.
I thought the Earth wasn't supposed to move until the honeymoon.
Yeah.
Damn. Okay.
The kids won't know that one.
This was my favorite from the top. It's super good. It's super good. This is good.
Yeah. This
is a little bit of a nostalgia, like
it
fireplace.
It is.
But like,
but I think we fairly put it as an actually good film.
Yeah, like his dad is great. Their dynamic is really like interesting. Mm-hmm. You get a little bit more of Len's backstory. This is where you get the "my face is tired" when we were making the meme.
Yes.
They don't give Jasmine a lot to do, but they also don't ruin her either, so that's fine.
Yes. And to be fair, yes, she is a Disney princess. He is the only prince that has his own movie. It is still Aladdin, so the fact that it focuses on Aladdin is not sinnable, I would say.
Nope, all good.
Yeah, if like
they knew how to use Iago well in this one.
Yes.
And that's probably why I like it better than Return of Jafar, because Iago is used well. He is still the kind of slightly sleazy con man that he always was, but he's just being a con man for the good now.
Right.
And he leaves with Kasim to go be a little bit more grey, and it's like, that makes sense. Rather than having him hang around the good guys and being forced to be good. He gets to like go do what he actually wants to do. So that's fine.
Until Aladdin 7, Aladdin's dad is a repeat offender. He goes,
oh yeah,
because it's the only life he knows.
Oh dear.
But yeah, it's got a lot going for it, and a lot of the set pieces I feel like are pretty good. Like you got the palace, and then obviously you have the King Midas thing with like the giant hand. Like that's super iconic.
That's super iconic, and it's still impressive. Like that they did that on a much lower budget, but it still looks really good for that budget, my guy.
Yeah, and it touches on, it's like, oh yeah, we've heard of King Midas, touches gold, blah blah. Like we have all heard that legend, but it's not one of those legends that a lot of movies just take as like, the Kraken, the Holy Covenant. And it's like all these things that you always hear about. It's like, Icarus and his wings. It's like, how about King Midas and everything turned to gold? Like, what if that was real? Yeah, cool, we can do that. We can definitely, you can see the positives and negatives of it. I don't know why the cloth was still cloth gold, but it's whatever.
And I like the way that they deal with the family issue. As well, because often a lot of the time when they try and like do the whole like, I gotta find my dad because I don't know who I am about, like they don't do it right.
I agree.
And did it pretty well here, where they're like, okay, we're gonna be supportive about it, and he can go try and figure it out. But either way, we still accept him, and they made that like very clear. And we're like, okay, either way, he does have a family now, but he can go and try and find out. And then they try it out, and they're like, okay, this isn't going to work out. Like, I found you, and now we're going to be the perfect family. Like, it doesn't happen like that.
Yeah.
And I like that. Because they're like, okay, I found you. We don't quite fit into each other's lives, but that's okay. And that's the resolution, is that it's okay for them to be apart
Yes.
and live their separate life.
But also, Mom's dead because I'm a Disney character. My mom's dead. Jasmine's mom's dead. Everybody's got dead moms. Nemo and Ariel. She got to watch that shit happen at the very least.
Oh,
It's a fucking whole ship. How does that hit her?
I know. All it would have done is just gently bounced off of that rock, and yet no, it completely flattened her.
Yeah.
Like, there's such a horrifically lame death to give her. I wish they'd given her a better one than just like being shocked and not being able to move. That's fine. I don't have a problem with her being paralyzed in fear. I have a problem with the fact that they're like, oh yeah, that ship is totally like sailing at like 10 kilometers per hour, and it's definitely gonna crash.
We're going at 6 knots,
and kill
definitely enough to kill a mermaid.
Involved. It's gonna kill everybody on board and the mermaid.
Yeah, but it's like you can understand why you would want like a human to cause the death.
Yes.
You can't
have a human fish her up in a net and then
have her choke on like a 6-pack like plastic ring.
Oh no, it's the wrong time period. Have her get caught in a large net, and they haul her up onto the deck, and you just see the boat sailing away as Triton's like trying to swim towards her. And you know that they've sailed off of her and they're gonna do something, but she's definitely gone. Like, that's all you needed. Just have her get caught, because he literally says in the first one, I don't want to see you at the other end of some meat eater's hook.
You realize that's just the beginning of Finding Nemo, right? He gets fished up in a net and then he drives away.
Yeah, that's why it works.
Fucking P. Sherman, man, 42 Wallaby Way. And then, as my third best film, I have Leroy and Stitch, which
I put this one at the bottom of my
but
it's still really good.
When I first heard about this, I was still relatively young. I heard Leroy and Stitch, and I was mad because I thought that means Stitch has a new owner named Leroy, and there's no Lilo. So I was like, I'm not watching that. I don't care. They took away Lilo, and they're just giving Stitch to some boy. No, fuck that.
Nah, they didn't do that until like the second TV series. That's when they removed Lilo for a different girl.
Yeah. But Leroy and Stitch, it's pretty good.
It's pretty good.
And I obviously I love Lilo and Stitch, one of the best favorite movies. So, I mean, you could say like it had a bar to clear for me.
This one has to work anyway. Yes. You know that this one had to work anyway because you didn't see the show.
I did not see the show.
And you were still able to like piece together the bits that they were clearly referencing from the show, and like kind of tying it together with the bits of the show. So like clearly it has to be good and be able to stand on its own. If you were able to be like, oh yeah, whatever, that's fine. This will make sense. As all these people and experiments from the show were popping up, and I was like, show thing.
Which.
But it didn't like interfere with you watching it,
right? So, like as you said, it kind of undoes the show because Leroy frees all of the ones that he captured, but it also works because it works with it. It's like, oh, I know these characters. Yeah, he works at that job and she works at that job, and and then everything works out in the end. So like, it's not like this TV show was for nothing, because at the end everything still worked out because they all get to come back and do their rehabilitated jobs. Which I feel like, how is Hawaii not like have more attention on this island that has clearly these obvious aliens working and living there? But I don't know. I mean, at least the government knows, because Mr. Bubbles knew about the aliens. And in his like, how does he work for child services and also the FBI or whatever? Like, I don't know how that works.
I feel like his child protective services is just a cover.
But he was super invested in taking Lilo away from Nani.
I mean, he's just really dedicated to his cover.
Yeah. I mean, you gotta do something during the day. So yeah, it's a good, even though I haven't seen the show, it's a good way to tie up and put a knot on the bow
Mhm,
of the show.
mhm.
And it's the and obviously like all the plot just comes from the show. Obviously you have
Yeah.
all the returning characters in the scientist, obviously, who then creates Leroy. And that fight at the end is kind of like a big payoff because you get to see everybody do their thing.
Mhm, mhm.
So that's pretty
It's
cool.
very much like watching a Pokemon movie, where at the end they brought in like a whole bunch of them.
You are correct.
Yeah. Listen, I watched a Pokemon movie recently. I
Which
know. I
which
know I'm
one?
correct. Oh, I watched the Mewtwo Evolution one, like Mewtwo Strikes
Oh, the
Back,
like
because I was like doing my
remaster.
hair and I just yeah. I was doing my hair and I just needed something on in the background. I kept turning around and getting so mad at what was happening, especially with the clone battle, because it was like, why are you using the same Pokemon that he has? They're not effective against each other. It's their own moves. What are you doing? I was getting so mad. I like stopped doing my hair to turn around and watch the movie for like 10 minutes straight. I was getting so
Oh my
mad at
god,
what was
that's
happening.
hilarious.
Like I turned around the first time and like it was when Team Rocket were like helping them get to the island and they were like sitting in like a ship made of like based on one of the Pokemon. And I turned around and I was like, what why? Why are we in a boat? Why are Team Rocket piloting a submarine boat? What is happening?
I love flashing back to like 9-year-old me in the theater when the original was out, and I'm like, no, the Pokemon are fighting each other. No, Ash died, and then you're just like, that move in the mirror match, it wouldn't work out. It wouldn't be effective.
Yeah. I had literally forgotten that was a remaster of that. But like I watched that film when I was a
Yeah.
kid. I watched the original one, and I completely forgotten that it was a remaster until I was looking up. Like I looked it up afterwards because I was like, "What is it? Who? Why?" And I was like, "Oh no! Oh no! I did watch this film. That's why I'm so mad. I've already seen it." Like Nurse Joy at the beginning, being like, she's doing like the layup. Help me, one Obi,
Yes.
Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Yes.
You're my only hope. And it's like, oh my god! You turn up and she's just like looking like a nun working for Mewtwo, and you're like, that's Nurse Joy. That's
Yeah.
definitely Nurse Joy.
Yeah.
Why? But I was getting so mad at the clone fight.
Meanwhile, 9-year-old me is like crying because Ash has turned to stone.
Yeah, I was like, oh no, oh look, he ran.
Do you still have?
He ran in the hip.
Do you still have your ancient Mew trading card from the theater?
No,
I
didn't get to see it in the
oh.
theater. I had to watch it when it came out on like TV for the first
I
time.
know I have it somewhere. I just rebindered all my old Pokemon cards and I got the Pikachu movie promo and the Electabuzz one as well.
Aw.
Okay, so number 2, Lion King 2, Simba's Pride, probably the most.
This was my top one.
It is definitely the most beloved by the masses. Every girl loves Kovu. I was talking to my friend who cuts my hair, and I was telling her about doing this, and she was like, I bet like you better say that the right ones are good. And I was like, King of Thieves and Simba's Pride. And she was like, that's right. And because of Kovu, I liked Bad Boys. And every girl was like that. And it's like, yeah, okay, I get it. Girls love Kovu. Girls love this movie. I understand. We went from Hamlet to Romeo and Juliet. It's fine.
Mm-hmm.
I want to see Lion King 3 that just rips off Merchant of Venice.
Or Taming of the Shrew.
Well, I mean, they already did that live action, so.
I know. No, I love Lion King too. I had it on VHS. I was so sad that we couldn't get it on DVD because, like, the DVD version that we had, it was a special edition version, and it had like an interactive safari game on it. Of course it did. And the VHS for the second one was like, hey, if you get it on DVD, then you get like the interactive safari. And I was like, oh, I want the safari. but we never got it on DVD. We only had it on VHS, and then I demanded that we get it on Blu-ray. So we own it on Blu-ray now. That's fine. It's all good. But this movie it's a good time. I like Zira. I like Kovu. I like Kiara. She has her issues, but you know, I like Kiara. The way that Simba's portrayed is like probably the worst part, to be honest, because he just delves into being like, oh, I gotta be an overprotective parent. But Zira's iconic, honestly, and I wish that they kept her original death intention.
Right? Yeah, you told me about
that.
On
purpose. Yeah, that would have been much better. Once again, with like Shang's death, if they'd stuck to it, if they'd stuck to Zira killing herself on purpose, top tier movie.
Yeah. I mean, I had seen part of it, I think, on TV once when I was younger, and I was like, who the fuck's this like Scar looking kid? I don't like him. And I just fucking changed the channel.
That's like one of the most visually off-putting things is the resemblance. I know why they did it. Like you get that, but you're also like, it's you know, it's not necessary.
Yes. Yeah, if you haven't seen it, he has no relation to Scar. He was born before Scar took over. But then Scar like dubbed him as like his chosen one, his like successor, even though he wasn't of his own blood. They don't really go over why.
Yeah, like Julius Caesar.
But he's just like, I see something in you. The prophecy will fulfill it and kill the Jedi.
You'd have to assume it's because because Zira was his most like fanatic follower. You'd have to assume that it's like her reward is that her son gets to be the progeny.
Mm-hmm. So,
because she has like the other kids as well, so you know he had options.
Yes, this is true, and obviously she had resentment towards that decision of his, but at the same time respected it enough to have Kovu play that role. In it's like, you have to kill Simba, and you know Scar believed in you, and yada yada yada, and that's fine. Like Kovu's character is fine. Because I mean, because it's like I'm gonna do this thing. It's like, whoa, but that hot chick though. I think I'm gonna change my whole worldview because I want that. I want a piece of that. And it's like, all right, and I get it. I mean, I don't get it because I'm not one of those kids who grew up in the '90s that watched Lion King that became a furry later on. But not to say that Lola Bunny wasn't the hotness, but she still is. By the way, I don't care what you say. Yeah, the story's fine. The story's fine. The animation is okay. Yeah, and the volume of songs was I think the highest out of any of these, even though most of them are sequels to musicals.
Of them they took from that special soundtrack version of the first one,
right?
Like a couple of very select few. And integrated them, which is nice because that soundtrack was basically like meant to be an audio sequel. I'm pretty sure I had it on cassette. I'm pretty sure it was meant to be basically like a visual and audio sequel, and then they're like, we're gonna do an actual one. So they brought in the "He Lives in You" song, which, if you remember while we were watching it, I was having that like ordeal about who sung it.
Yes.
And then I had to find out with different versions with the different singers, and I was having like an existential crisis. Being like, who is this? Who did it?
That's interesting. I didn't know. Yeah. Because like that's how Toy Story 2 happened. Because Toy Story 2 was going to be a direct-to-DVD cash grab. And then they were like, no, let's do this right. And then they made Toy Story 2, and then 3, and then 4, and 76, and you know.
But yeah, the relationship between Kiara and Kovu is pretty good.
It's
their relationship is pretty good. You know, it's not phenomenal. No one's ever going to try and tell you that.
But at the same time, Romeo and Juliet did not have a phenomenal relationship either.
Yeah, and Kiara and Kovu are definitely better than those two. So.
Yes, especially if we're looking at the Leonardo DiCaprio version.
Romeo plus Juliet.
Yes. Yeah, plus math, and it becomes the future. And I think definitely the best out of the 3 live action ones, the most recent one's the best one with what's her name? Shit. I can't think of it, from Pitch Perfect, the one with the original song in Pitch Perfect 2.
I don't like Pitch Perfect very much. I would not know.
All right, we'll have an argument later about that. Anyways,
I love Anna Kendrick, but like not really Pitch Perfect. Anywho,
she was also the girl in Ender's Game, like the like love interest.
Oh, I can visualize her, but I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know why it's escaping me.
But I know who you're talking about.
She was Juliet, and this was like 2014. That was the best one.
Oh.
Not that it was great, but that was the best out of the one from like the 80s, and then the Leonardo one and that one. That brings my top one. Lilo and Stitch 2. Stitch has a glitch. And the glitch is that when he was made, he wasn't fully charged, so now he's going to die because his life battery was low. And then he dies and magically comes to life, which is my only gripe with this film. It's like, wait, he just magically comes to life just because of love?
Yeah.
Shut up.
What
they could have had the machine work.
Yeah.
Because, like, they're to say it was like, because, like, so they make the machine and it doesn't work, and then they remake the machine, and it could have worked, but now they're like, no, it didn't work, and he died, but then he came back to life because love and friendship and shit.
Yeah, that's legitimately the only reason that I put it behind King of Thieves. I was like, oh, that machine.
But it's a good movie. It's so good.
It is a good movie. It is a good movie.
Yeah, like, I hate to start on the one thing that I don't like about it, but...
No, but that's why it's important, because we're talking about the one thing that we don't like from a really good movie. It's important.
Like, yes, so like Stitch has a glitch, so he kind of goes haywire and loses control because his battery's low. You know, we all have cell phones that do that, am I right? And of course he loses control at the most inopportune times, and it ruins Lilo doing her hula routine with him for some reason. Like, I don't know what the rules are to this hula contest, but everyone else did it solo.
Yeah, I feel like they just put that in because they showed him at the end of the first
doing the hula. Yeah, that is very true.
It's like, you know, that could have just been a one-off. Like, you don't have to keep that.
But I love Stitch. But, you know, like with Leroy and Stitch, like, it had a bar to cross. Like, it wasn't gonna ride on the coattails of Chris Sanders' wonderful movie that he made, but it's still good. And poor David, that poor guy, he he could not catch a break. Mm-hmm. It's like, dude, you want to be with Nani? We get it. Like, you know, game recognized game, but it's like, bro, it's like pour one out for the homie, but you know he was still going at it, and you got to respect that. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's not like they were having like issues and troubles and fighting. It was just kind of like,
no, just like wrong time every single time.
Yeah. It's like she has a lot going on.
As the first one.
You guys, you know, you had a date, but like you aren't really sure where each other are, but like you do want to be together. But there's just like a lot going in the way, and now there's more alien shit going on. So sorry.
Yeah, sorry, bro.
But it's nice that, you know, you're having a non, like, out of the blue, like, connection that Lilo's trying to make with her mom, who won this hula contest. Mm-hmm. And she's doing like a real Hawaiian story that, yes, does tie into the theme of this movie itself and how love conquering death. Like, how many times does she have to say that before we know, okay, we get it, Stitch is going to live because of love? But still, it had some warmth to it in what she was trying to do, and at the same time, like, Stitch is like legit dying, even though he basically says like no to death, and then like the universe is like, yeah, okay, cool, yeah, just don't die then.
Yeah, he does in fact tell death to just keep walking.
Which is, it's a move. Like that is a mood right there. And we have to respect Stitch. Yeah, he is usually a super weapon. And, you know, he would never make more than one, but 626 is the 626 out of all of them.
Technically, 627 have been made.
Yes. But he was the 626th, that's what I'm saying.
Yes.
But yeah. It's a little bit better than Leroy. For me, even though, so if you're confused about the order,
No, I agree.
It's Lilo and Stitch the movie, and then Lilo and Stitch 2, and then the show, and then Leroy and Stitch.
And then Stitch with an exclamation mark.
Right. Which...
Because we didn't watch Stitch the movie.
Correct.
Like Leland.
Correct. We didn't, because it's not technically a sequel.
No, it's not.
So that's why it's not on the list. So you people in the comments that are not mad at us don't get to be mad at us. Because no one's listening at this point, because we're like 2 hours, 25 minutes in.
Listen, we're doing really good on time. We're all the way through. You stated your top one.
Yeah.
So recap, what was your number one? Your ultimate number one?
My ultimate number one is Lilo and Stitch 2. Stitch has a glitch.
My ultimate number one was Lion King 2.
Yeah, and it's my number 2.
And your ultimate worst?
Jungle Book 2.
Beauty and the Beast, Belle's Magical World.
And everything in between is just mostly shit. A lot of these aren't good, and it shows. They were quickly made. Mm-hmm. They were just chucked together, 10 pounds in a bag of crisps, and failed TV shows, retelling the same story backwards, and midquels that don't make any sense, and sequels that nobody wanted to see and nobody asked for.
And of course, to be clear, we're only knocking on the actual movies themselves, not the people who worked on them. Respect to everything.
They didn't have a lot of time, and they didn't have a lot of money. They did what they could.
Nope. They did what they could.
You know, if you are given only $20 and be like, take that movie from 2001 that didn't do very well and make a TV show out of it, you're not going to get a good product no matter who makes the Atlantis TV show.
Yep.
It's just not going to happen. You're not going to make a Pocahontas 2 and make everyone feel okay at the end. You're not going to make a Bambi 2 and make anyone give a fuck about Bambi. Like, I just don't care. He's a wimpy deer.
Peter Pan 2 and make Peter Pan likable.
You can't make Peter Pan. Like, none of the Peter Pan stories are good. Hook was a stupid, terrible, weird idea, and it somehow magically worked and became a good film, and nobody knows why.
Yeah, nobody who worked on it knows why.
It's like, okay, so anyway, we got Steven Spielberg and the set designer from Cats, the Broadway play, and Rob Williams is going to be adult Peter Pan, but he's going to be like a businessman and not fun. And we're going to have Dustin Hoffman, and then we're going to have all this weird shit. And it doesn't make sense why that movie worked, and it did. And I think a lot of these sequels show that we didn't need these to come out in theaters. So people are like, oh man, they keep relegating these, these good movies to have, bad sequels. There's a reason they are where they are. It's like, I'm sure they all made money. They obviously kept making them. Most of these were made in like a 4-year span. Jim Cummings is in literally every single one except for the Stitch ones and Rescuers Down Under.
Mm-hmm.
And so, shout out to Jim. Met him a number of times. Shout out to Jim. And who else?
Also Alan Tudyk. Alan Tudyk, also in a lot of them. So shout out to Alan.
Yes, and obviously, Frank Welker, uncredited in a lot of them, making all those animal noises. And then who else was in like most of them?
A lot of the voice actors and voice actresses who went on to be a lot of like the side like normal Disney characters, like Clarabelle's voice actress is in a lot of them. In a lot of the older ones, there's a couple of like consistent voice actors. There's a lot of them who were in most of them in a certain time period.
Rob Paulson. That's what I was thinking of. Rob Paulson. He's in most of them as well.
Him too.
Yeah.
Him too.
Good old. He's not the creepy Jacques voice from Dream Drop Distance.
Birth by Sleep.
Yeah, whatever. BBS, DDD. It's just there's 3 letters. They don't. It doesn't matter.
No, we're gonna have an argument about that later. Never mind, Pitch Perfect.
Listen, Chain of Memories. It's a mid-quel. All right, it's Rosencrantz and Guildenstern. Everything's fine. So that, ladies and gentlemen, was 8 months of watching direct-to-video Disney sequels that I had mostly not watched and Kiri grew up on, and we gave our opinions on all of them, which are mostly not good. Some of them have some good nostalgia to them. Others have some what the fuck me moments. And in the end, I feel like they're just going to be relegated to Disney Plus now. Like when was the last one that was made? Was it Lilo and Stitch 2?
Cinderella Free might be one of the last ones.
Yeah, it's been a while since they've made one, so they might be done with that era because that business model doesn't really work anymore.
Oh, actually, I think it might be Ariel's beginning. I think that's actually the last one.
I think you're right. That's right.
Because it was like 2009, I think. I think I was 11.
Don't say that. I was 18. At least. I doubt it came out in like November. But yeah, that's the end of the podcast. Number 21, Blackjack. Thank you for joining me, Kiri. It was a journey of pain and suffering, and you led me through quite jollily.
Friends suffer together.
This is true. This is true. Remember that, everybody. Friends suffer together. You see a meme that really hurts you in the soul, you have to send it to your friend.
Yep.
Those are the rules. Even if it's Aladdin in his fucking smushed face.
Time for your face flattening, honey.
Yes, honey. All right, goodbye, everybody.